All right, good morning, everybody. It is a Wednesday morning. We do not have a Benet crisis, we have a buzzless Super Bowl, but we do not have a Benet crisis.
A beignet.
Benet?
You mean beignet?
Beignet? Beignet? Did I say that wrong?
Beignet.
Yeah.
That's a pastry.
Yeah.
I thought you were making fun of someone that said it.
You know what? It's a slow morning. It's actually a very sad morning on this show.
Why?
Because this is what this show used to be. This show used to be, first of all, a lot of things. But this show on this day used to be magical. I'm not sure there's something wrong with it. It says your device doesn't work.
I saw that. That's weird.
So,
he's here. I
you
promise.
You get to look at my beautiful face on the stream all day, ladies and gentlemen.
No, we're
How
not going to
about
do
that?
that today.
Look at that acne right there.
I know it's bad,
Yeah.
right? No, it's popping.
Yeah.
I got to wash my my
You do some
pillowcase.
zits over there?
I can't get rid of the acne. I've been trying. Like, I have good phases and bad phases. I wash my face almost every single day, and then there are weeks like last week I was glowing. The skin have never looked better. This week I'm popping pimples everywhere. It's just bad. It's a roller coaster of a face, almost like Nebraska basketball. I mean, it's One
608. We compared Nebraska ball to his face. I like this.
One week,
quite the jump there.
1 week, it's clean, it's nice, it's looking good. You're excited about the potential of what it can do.
I don't know. I think you've always had. You got like acne. You got the.
No,
I think
but
that's going to be your face when you shave.
But some weeks, like right here,
I
this
sense an
side of the
endorsement
face
opportunity.
looks good. But then you have, like, right now, if you're watching the stream, as I should talk into the microphone, as you're watching the stream, like, there's big booming ones. That's like bad. That's not supposed to happen. I got to go to a dermo to get the scarring on. Anyway, yeah. And then in 1 week it's great, and then the next week it's absolutely terrible, like Nebraska basketball. And then all of a sudden,
wow. So do you have confidence that you're going to get rid of that thing on your face?
Yes, I do have confidence. I do. I mean, I have like specific, like, I can't always use it because it's rough. It gets really, really rough. And
rubbing alcohol?
No, like the specific, if you put the dot, like a patch, like right there. But, like, I don't know, it can kind of get rough on my skin, so I don't always use them. But this is like DEFCON 2 right now with how bad this looks. It's part of the reason why the brim of my hat is pulled down today, so people can't see it. Because I'm definitely not insecure about it and talking about it profusely on the radio.
He needs the Bonnie and Clyde hat, like Clyde Frazier used to wear, and just pull it down. And
Scotty Too Hottie hat.
Nice. That's twice as.
I know.
Love it. Take me back.
But what this show used to be on this day was magical.
February
and then 5th? The first Wednesday in February. I was thinking about this driving in because there were they still are friends of mine, but this was like a holiday they took off. You know, people take off March Madness. All of a sudden they get a vasectomy, things like that. They take some time off.
Snip, snap.
Yep. But this used to be a day in which college football used to take the day off. This used to be a national holiday.
Oh,
because this used to be National Letter of Intent Signing Day. This used to be a holiday in the college football world. For people like myself who were major recruitniks, now I still am, but not to the extent that I used to be, I looked forward to this. We used to have wall-to-wall 4 hours of 18-year-old kids coming on the show, and some were good at this, some were not so good.
Sure.
But they would tell you about their hopes and dreams, and we would buy in. And then a year later, they would be gone. Or we'd get great people like Cam Taylor-Britt and so on and so forth. And you'd be like, man, that guy is a dude. I used to, I geeked out over this date. I would look forward to this. And now college football has ruined it. But I did see that the Big Ten Network is doing like a National Letter of Intent Signing Day.
Good for them. I mean, they got to.
So they're trying to keep it. They're trying to keep it alive. I mean, I
honestly forgot.
There's still signing day. Like there will be like boys and girls and boys across the country that will sign in particular sports. But in college football, this used to be the day. This was the day. Like wall to wall, you'd be up. ESPNU would be someplace, and there'd be somebody at a table with hats.
Fax machines would be doing their thing.
There'd be animals that were being used. We would hang on the hopes and dreams of somebody saying yes. We'd go to a National Letter of Intent Signing Day press conference, and Mike Riley was like just hoping that fax would come in, and he'd get the little tug on the ear in the back of the room that he could talk about that prospect. And now what do we have? Nothing.
Wednesday.
We have winter conditioning in Lincoln. We do not have signing day.
I'd much rather have a full signing day than how they do it now, because like the anticipation of like, holy crap, is he going to sign today? Is he not going to sign today? You're going down the list.
You would have liked it.
I'm sure there are teams like, okay, we're going to get 32 prospects today. Ends up only 23 of them signed. They're panicking. What the hell are we going to do? How did we not close the door on these guys? How did LSU sweep the rug under us? What is, out of all the guys that you interviewed during like these days who came in, on National Signing Day, what's the one that you remember most?
Cam Taylor-Britt was pretty good.
Yeah. Now he was a kind of a last minute type signing. And he wasn't a very highly talented
No, he was
prospect.
kind of under the radar, and he said that he was going to play quarterback on the air. I was like, I think I'm going to come there and play quarterback. He goes, I actually think I can do both. He was a great interview.
Yeah.
It turned out okay for him, though.
Ernest Suttles was really good. I didn't mount to much at Nebraska and got shown the door on his own accord, but he was a really, really good interview. Then some have been a little bit, that's not their thing.
Oh, sure. You don't have to get into that. Yeah, no, not at all. But I'm always curious, like, what's the one that sticks out to you the most? Cam Taylor-Britt's an interesting one.
Why?
Because he wasn't like a 4 or 5 star guy. It wasn't necessarily a dude where everyone was clamoring to get. It wasn't like, when you have, and it still happens to this day, right? You have 25 guys, 26 guys who come into a recruiting class. Mm-hmm. There are definitely a couple that you don't really know about. Even if you're a really big fan of the team, you don't really know about their story. So the fact that he once again, he signed on really, really late, and he was a lower prospect on the list. The fact that he came on to begin with was interesting. And then the fact that he amounted to the guy.
Came on the radio?
No, well.
Oh, no. They those kids, they're hounded now. Like, I know what Rocco Spindler is going through. He'll be here, by the way, this weekend because he's going to be on a podcast that I'm on. Oh. But, like, it just besieged with requests. So a lot of these kids were, like, just hammered. But if you're coming to Nebraska, I mean, you lean into it. You can be on 7 different radio shows.
That's true.
And tell your story. So, yeah, not a surprise that he came on.
Yeah.
And he's always been great.
But you got him
and
he turned into something, He turned into not to just something. He turned into a really great player here.
I think Nebraska thought they had something unique out of him. I mean, that was a big pickup to go into Alabama and get him.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he turned out to be, fairly good. He's had a nice little NFL career with the wrong team.
Absolutely.
But this day was like a big day. I'd look forward to 2:00. You'd go down to Lincoln, and the head coach would have so much optimism, and they would just go over player after player. The first time, like Coach Osborne, the first time I ever went to one of these was like in Coach Osborne's last couple of years, and he just kind of go through the list real quick. The one thing about Frank Solich that I really liked, and other coaches have done it, but not to the extent that Frank did. So when Frank was the head coach, they would have the National Letter of Intent Signing Day press conference, and they go through every single player and they say something nice about every single player and maybe a little anecdote about how they recruited them. But the one thing Frank would always do would then take you to the film room. Like they would take the media to the film room and they would go through basically their recruiting dinner film.
Then you geek out to it.
And the head coach would break down for the media the individual player. Yeah, it was great.
Oh, that'd be fun.
It was great. And then later that night, they'd have a recruiting dinner.
Wow.
That boosters would pay a lot of money to, and the head coach would break down the film, and then the next thing you know, Sean Callahan's going across the state, and he's breaking down the film of the recruits. And now we got
me back.
And now we got nothing today except for I think the Big Ten Network does 2 hours of hey, all your recruiting class is already on campus, and they all signed back in December. How you doing, Signetti?
We interrupt campus seats to bring you this special presentation.
They got to fill up that programming some way, shape, or form. Which Big Ten Network is going to pretty decent job of filling up the airways of just all Big Ten. I mean, that's a gargantuan task at times to make your completely own separate television network and then figure out a way to do 24/7 programming on it. But I've always liked them. It's good for them. They'll figure it out.
Oh, okay.
Something they got to do.
Okay. Then you have where it is really dropped off is we don't have a Super Six. Like Mike Schaefer would collect a Super Six from the media. I don't remember a DM where Schaefer said, give me your Super Six. I don't know. We don't have a media Super Six in 2025. What happened to that? We've just completely ignored this day, and it's very, very sad. It's very, very sad out there for the recruitniks.
It's turned into everything that college football has now become, right? I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is college football in a nutshell.
Damn, thanks. I'm sad now.
right? We had one big.
He's right. That's right. It's trending.
This is how college football is now. We had one big day for National Letter of Intent. We had one big celebration, and it was kind of a thing that you look forward to, and the day would come, and it would be this awesome, like you said, you have a press conference, you go down the list, you're holding. I mean, I remember watching ESPN when I was younger, and they had something like where they go in and, he's going to put on a hat. Oh, he takes off the hat, he puts on another hat, right? Now, it's 24/7. It's all the time. We get tweets and articles and interviews and emails all day, every single day about what this guy's thinking. Where is he going to visit? Who is he going to talk to? Where is he trending? We have people who are paying a lot of money to put in crystal ball predictions to where they're going to go, right? And it's almost as if they've taken this one day and they've stretched it into this kind of cottage industry of 24/7 recruiting, keeping up with stuff, because you know what? People like it. When people like it, you want to extenuate it. When you extenuate it, you get a lot of money out of it.
Somebody needs to get on to Shafe. Why we're not doing a Super Six?
I would do a Super Six. Do you have a Super Six off the top of your head? I know that's an unfair question to ask.
I could come up with one pretty quick. I know your number one would be Dane Key.
Oh, we're including, that's weird. We're including transfer portal too.
We always have. I think that's one of the things Shafe has done is you can include the portal guys.
Okay. I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean, Dane Key definitely be one for me. I think Cortez Mills definitely one, because I think he can make an instant impact.
This would be a very interesting, including portal guys, because Nebraska added 16, and most of them are like impact guys.
Christian Jones would be another one too, for sure. Linebacker coming out of Omaha.
See, this would be the year to do it. Somebody needs to wake up Shafe. Maybe he's already up with HUD.
It would be a great year.
And say, why are we not doing a Super Six? Because this would be I would love to see the results of this year's Super Six, because there would be probably 3 or 4 that are consensus across the board. But I bet there would be a lot of individuals that will be on there, because he does a Super Six and then a sleeper, if I recall.
Merritt, Mills, Dawson Merritt, Christian Jones, Cortez Mills, Dane Key, Rocco Spindler, Elijah Pritchett.
Would be a bad Super Six.
That would be my Super Six, because Pritchett is I'm pretty sure he would be the top high school prospect in this. Him or Winery would be the top high school prospect if they were to come on as high school recruits, or if they were to be compared to where these high school recruits are. But he's got some SEC experience. Dane Key, because I don't know why I called him Kane. Dane Key, because he, like I said before, the production he's had in the SEC, bar none. And then Jones, Merritt, and Mills, all incredible prospects. And then Spindler is going to come in and immediately be your best offensive lineman.
And then there will be guys that committed way early that you completely forgot about, like Malcolm Simpson. Do not forget about Malcolm Simpson, but he committed a while back. And the other thing about signing day is you might have like a really, really good class, but it's the ones that commit in the 11th hour that you remember the most.
Absolutely.
Like Parker, for example. As Nebraska was going through this season with running backs, and then even in the portal of who are they going to go after running back, Parker was somewhat forgot about because he committed so long ago.
Yeah.
But in the old day, the guys that committed in the 11th hour got so much run, and you're like, that's the difference maker, because that guy waited until the last minute.
I think, no, it's about impact, right? I mean, I think, how would you make a Super Six? Would you make a Super Six in terms of instant impact? Of they're going to come in and they're going to contribute to the team right away? Or when you make your Super Six, do you think of long-term, these are the 6 guys that I think are going to be...
By the end of their career, they will make an impact. So it could be sooner or later. That's how I've always done it.
Yeah. I think I mix the two. I try and look for guys who I think that... Because look, Ja'Cory Barney was another guy who committed really late last year, who was a 3-star prospect, who was under the radar coming out of Florida. And it kind of all happened at once with those Miami, Florida guys, where I don't think they all were in the 11th hour, but they were definitely later in the process. They come in and instantly, Vincent Shavers is now going to be starting next year, more than likely. Ja'Cory Barney now going to be starting more than likely next year. Willis McGahee going to be starting next year. I look at Cortez Mills as all right, that's a guy who not only is coming out of the same part of the country, but is a really highly touted prospect. I think he's 4-star. He's more highly touted. McGahee was a 4-star too, but Mills is considered to be a better prospect than Barney. And we saw what Barney coming into the Big Ten with his speed, what he can do. I think Mills is a guy. I mean, that wide receiver room, along with Jamar Mosey, or Isaiah Mosey, sorry, is going to be absolutely loaded.
This was last year's Super Six consensus by the media. One was Dylan Raiola, no-brainer. Carter Nelson, Grant Bricks, Caleb Benning, Dante Dowdell, and Micah Mazuka. Then the sleepers
Caleb,
were Barney, Donovan Jones, Camden Cook, Keelan Smith. That was the Super Six from last year. I didn't know if we had a announcement that we retired this. Schaefer had a kid and all of a sudden decided, nah.
Schaefer should do it. I'll text Schaefer. Be like, hey, get on it. We'll do this today. We'll figure it out. Send out a big
sad day. This used to be the day. 4 hours, banger, kid after kid. Some were a little gun shy. Some we tried to convince that they should announce where they're going on air. And now what do we have? We got to talk about Rob Pelinka's jacket.
Do you know what you have? You have 6 new subscriptions you have to buy in order to keep up with all this stuff. Got your On3 subscription, got your Rival subscription, got your 24/7 subscription, you got your Huddle subscription, you got your PFF subscription. That's what you got now.
You do need to talk about work to cover that for you.
Yeah,
it's a lot of stuff.
We'll figure it.
But then we need to talk about Rob Pelinka's jacket.
He looked great.
So did you see his press conference yesterday?
Yes.
Luka looked uncomfortable, but the Lakers did not last night. That's the difference between the Lakers and the Mavs. Lakers put up 73 in the first half, and the Mavs gave up 91 in their first game after trading Luka. Lakers looked really good last night. So they had the press conference yesterday, and they said a bunch of words, and Luka tried to say some things, and he looked sad, and he looked fat. But he made it through, and he went to the game last night. But I was more locked into, that's what, I mean, I'm sure that he went to In-N-Out. Luka probably had his first triple-double in LA. But
good one.
Pelinka's jacket. So Rob Pelinka, the GM of the Lakers, looks like Rob Lowe.
Oh, that's good. That's a good.
So he had an NBA hat on.
He just had the NBA logo. He did them a big favor.
But he was wearing a jacket that I've noticed has become very popular. You know me, Mr. Fashionista, because the Met Gala this year is going to be men's. You know how usually the Met Gala is like towards women's fashion?
Yes.
So it's supposed to be towards men's fashion this year.
Okay.
So I don't know if that means that like Kanye goes naked and he wears just like a clear bodysuit. What would be the reaction to that?
That's about
compared
right.
to his wife on the red carpet at the Oscars, who was wearing her outfit. What would be the reaction if that was Kanye?
On the scale to misdemeanor to body positivity, I think you're more so on the left side of the bracket there. I mean, I think that, they just asked Bianca Censori to very nicely, hey, maybe you not do that. Maybe put on the coat. Maybe you go. I don't know. We'll figure it out. They very nicely asked her to leave. They call the cops. They'd be like, hey, get the hell out of here. What is going on? You are
that thing away.
You are bothering the people.
I mean,
I think Bianca, they're like, well, you can go. You don't have to go. I mean, just cover up a little bit.
It's art.
Yeah, it's body positivity.
Yeah.
I think
with Kanye, they tell him to get the hell out.
I think Kanye should be at the Met Gala and pull that off. I would just like to see what the reaction is.
Exactly. I'm here for chaos.
We're a fair and balanced country, right, when it comes to men and women?
He's not getting an invite.
I don't know, man. Yeah, invite Kanye and you get some attention. Either good or bad.
Have you ever seen that Instagram video of the two people making the seating chart for the Met Gala?
No.
Oh, it's so sick. It's like these two women, and they are just talking crap about each and every one of the guests and where they have to put each person. And just very like every single person they went down, like they covered up the names, but they were like, they would give slight digs at them. It was like, is he going to be on his phone all day again? So
picture
funny.
two moms from Long Island.
So it's one of my favorite videos.
But Pelinka's jacket. So this has become a popular thing because I've seen this out more with the not necessarily the kids.
I was going to say, not the youth. This is a midlife crisis jacket that people around your age are wearing.
It's very much an LA jacket, though.
Yeah.
So
the zipper looks broken, but I'm
going to
tell
you.
Well, okay. So the new thing is 2 zipper jackets. Like that's like the in thing is the 2 zipper jacket, and I've seen them more and more. I actually was
own one?
somewhere, and I looked at a 2 zipper jacket, and I was like,
you got to do it.
Okay, because it doesn't come with directions. Like, just the simple man that I am.
It doesn't come with a pamphlet.
It doesn't, like, what do you do? Does the zippers meet in the middle? But I think Pelinka,
it's like Rob Lowe and the Fonz.
Pelinka taught me how to wear it. So you got the two zippers, and you got to have one that is open on the bottom, and you got to have one that is open on the top, and the zippers meet in the middle. That's the way to wear the two-zipper jacket.
You say, I want to clarify, you say the zippers meet in the middle. They don't necessarily meet. There is some distance there. There is a little,
I think it would be open if they met, but they're coming towards each other.
They're coming towards
each other.
Broken
zippers are in. I'll remember that.
Look, I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. It's a nice jacket.
It is.
I mean, it is a nice jacket.
Yeah, you go into Kohl's to get that jacket.
No, that is a custom
Costco.
Like,
probably find one of those at Costco,
some beautiful endangered animal had to die in order for them to make that jacket.
Yes, the Mavericks.
It's a good one. But it looks pretty. It is I would wear that.
Yeah, you could pull it off.
It's a little too short for me, though.
Well,
I don't like how it pulls up at his like almost his belly button. Almost like I feel like there needs to be like 3 more inches of jacket for it to be. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It just cuts off weirdly. Look good though. Did you see him shout out Nico Harrison? Did you see him do that? Such a mess. Did you see him do that? He goes, "Hey, I just want to thank Nico for letting us get this deal done. I want to thank you for giving me your franchise player. I want to thank you for giving me your championship window. Really appreciate it, bud."
I'm going to love that 2030 number 1 pick from the Mavericks.
There's an awesome conversation to be had about if this trade happened, let's say just hypothetically, Rob Pelinka was the general manager of the Charlotte Hornets and this happened and Luka went to the Charlotte Hornets, this trade gets vetoed immediately, right?
It never happens.
It never happens. There's no doubt. There's no way this trade happens if Luka gets traded to the Detroit Pistons.
I love all the drama that is coming out days later that now Jason Kidd was behind this. Because Kidd has pulled this move again in the past, that Luka has just been a disaster behind the scenes.
Yeah,
and so they were like, "Yeah, we got to do this."
Cowboys throw money at those.
This is going to be a fantastic 30 for 30.
I was going to say they're going to write a book about this. Or there's going to be. I mean, the article that was written yesterday, that I read, was like Harrison didn't tell anyone. No one knew this was going on until he got the go-ahead from the new owner. That it was all done. It was done. It was dusted, and he calls a new owner, and he goes, "All right, can we do it?" And they go, "Yep, you can do it." And he does it, and it's sealed. I mean, that's crazy. To do a whole trade where, people in the Lakers front office knew, but no one in the Mavericks front office knew. And it was just Pelinka grooming him and taking him out to breakfast and taking him out to lunch and talking to his old friend who he traveled the world with when he was a Nike rep and Pelinka had Kobe.
Brandon writes in about Pelinka's jacket. He texted in, "Isn't there a QR code to tell you how to wear the double zipper?" It's confusing. I didn't know how to wear the double zipper. I thought you put it on, not put it on like normal. It would be zipped up and you just pull it over.
Like a pullover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now I know how the double zipper jacket is supposed to work.
Oh, I would get frustrated.
You would look in a double zipper. I don't think I would.
I don't think I would.
You guys make the NCAA tournament? That'll look good. I think if G getting on the bus.
You had a double zipper leather jacket and then a pair of sunglasses, you'd look like who is the butler's name in Parent Trap?
I just remember Lindsay Lohan.
You look like him. I'll find you a picture. You look good. You would look good in leather. You would look good in leather.
Not true.
I think leather
suits falling
you.
For that.
You think would you be closer to the Fonz or like Ross Geller?
He puts the G in G-Funk.
I once bought a bomber jacket for a woman and it didn't work, so that bomber jacket got retired.
It bombed.
Where is the bomber jacket?
Bomber jacket, long time ago. I've moved since then. I probably left it behind somewhere. Actually, it might be in a storage unit in Lincoln that belongs to somebody else now. Who knows? Those were back in the days when I thought, wow, you know what? We're struggling here. Bomber jacket does it. Bomber jacket didn't do it.
You're like you were walking around Kohl's and you looked at the bomber. You go, yeah, that's it. That's
going to win me 20 games right there.
That's what it's going to do right there. If I'm going to get it done, I'm going to wear this bomber jacket.
I've given up fashion for just smartness.
Yeah.
Like I want a warm coat.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care what I look like. I just want a warm coat.
I've given up fashion. I didn't trade it for anything. I
I don't think fashion is in your
no
vocabulary. We look at what you wear. Yeah.
I'm pretty consistent. I wear a lot of black. I wear a lot of.
You can get behind that.
Well, you got the good looking 22-year-old. You're very sloppy look.
Yeah. That's okay. It's good.
Yeah.
You have the rest of your life to be all nice.
Sloppy. Yeah, your shoes aren't tied. I mean, that kind of stuff.
No,
that's a 22-year-old look.
I have very good hygiene, by the way. I shower a day, brush the teeth. I smell good.
Shoes aren't tied, but
I wash my face. It doesn't do anything, but believe it or not, I wash it.
I think the sloppy look is good for you.
I think this is just very casual.
No, but some days you come in here and you're real sloppy. Yeah, you look like a college kid.
Yesterday I was wearing a sweater and a t-shirt.
There you go. That's Doug Moe.
Yeah.
Doug Moe.
Dirty t-shirt. It was good.
It was not a dirty t-shirt.
Dirty t-shirt.
You never saw the t-shirt. The t-shirt was under a nice sweater.
We saw the hot dog stain.
There was no hot dog.
There was a hot dog. There was a mustard stain there.
At least there was mustard.
There are multiple t-shirts and quarter zips that I have that are just yellow stains. Just yellow.
So relatable.
Like a little kid. Peeing.
We were there one time.
Yeah. Little kid.
This is why I told the people at KU, do not give me anything white. And it's like, what, you don't like it? It's like, no, it doesn't like me. I can't keep it clean.
So to this day, my mom gets mad at me when I buy something white. Like I'll come home and I'll be like, hey, look what I got. She goes, another white quarter zip.
How are you going to keep it clean?
Like, how is that? One time I got a red Blackhawks quarter zip. I got mustard on it. Came back. There was a stain on it. She goes, there's red. Like, she's like, this is red. How do you stain a red quarter zip? Like how, like she goes, only you could take color quarter zips and stain them. So I'm not good with eating.
She hasn't met me yet. I got your back.
Yeah. The white quarter zip, like, in basketball, everybody wears quarter zips now. Like, we have
not Rick Pitino
in the Omaha rotation. We have white.
Yeah.
The trainer hates white.
Oh.
Like she doesn't wear it because she's going to have to deal at some point with blood and.
Sure. Oh, good point.
So people are like, why do you, when the team wears white, why do you wear black?
Because it's a state of mind.
She's like, because blood would be on my white quarter zip within minutes.
Is white fattening or is it slimming?
Black is slimming.
Black is slimming.
Trust me. I know.
And then white is fattening, right? Or is there a color that makes you look fatter?
Every other color, but
Stripes.
black is yeah. Oh yes.
Yeah, and I think you want to avoid stripes.
Yeah.
Great movie. Doesn't look good on the body.
Is Stripes the Sting movie?
Yes.
Okay. See, I saw that's one movie. Is it?
No. Bill Murray.
Okay. I'm thinking of a different movie.
Bill Murray, Harold Ramis.
I haven't seen it. I've heard of it before.
John Candy.
Sting. Is it just Sting?
No, he was in the police.
No. This is Bill Murray in Stripes.
Okay, but I'm thinking of Sting, right? That's a heist movie.
Oh, the movie. I thought you were. We thought you were talking about the musician.
No.
And I was like, how do we?
I thought you were talking about Driven to Tears.
I'm thinking about the heist movie Sting.
Every breath you take.
The heist movie Sting. I got it confused with Stripes. Sorry.
It's like Sting was pretty good at that concert the other night.
I was like, I don't think Sting was Stripes.
No. Sting, is making talk about a guy who's made a lot of money off residuals and people stealing his work. Sting is like a near billionaire.
Looks great for 72.
He looks great for any age.
Mm-hmm.
Still tours. I think he comes through Omaha like once every year. Bob Dylan's coming to Omaha.
I can't wait.
Really? I didn't know you were a big Bob Dylan fan.
I like Bob Dylan. I like those, like the Billy Joel, Bob Dylan, Bob Seger, 70s.
I remember Bob Seger. Yes.
Like that kind of like. Now, my thing is that I'm going to be honest with you. I couldn't name too many like Bob Dylan songs.
But you're a huge fan?
But no, I'm not a huge fan. But I would go because I know that when Bob Dylan just plays music or when I listen to a Bob Dylan song, I enjoy this.
So I love the movie.
So I didn't see the movie. I got to see the movie.
Same.
But I don't know that I want to go see him in concert because of his voice. Like he's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like you're not going to go see Ozzy in concert anymore.
See, I think,
even with like Axl Rose and Guns N' Roses, his voice has been stretched so much that it's just not the same.
Drugs are bad.
Or it's going to be computer generated.
The whole Bob Dylan going to any of those guys' concerts. You just go to those concerts so you can say, hey, I saw him in concert at this point, right?
They also play the hits like Billy Joel, Tom Petty.
But they all like
3 hours of
none of them are
joy.
The same. None of them are sounding as good as maybe the younger artists you can go to, and then if you want to actually listen to music. But I would go to Bob Dylan just so I could tell my dad, oh, I went to Bob Dylan. and he would be jealous.
I'm sure there'll be somebody that April 1 would like to sell you some tickets.
Exactly.
Go see him at the Orpheum.
There you go.
You got expendable income. You like to spend cash.
Yeah. Not really.
All right. Coming up a little bit later, John Walker joins us. It's a double dose of hoopdom around here tonight. Creighton plays at 7:30 at Providence, and in Nebraska, getting to Grandpa Nap. Nebraska doesn't play till 9:30 against Wilhelm Breidenbach. Goggles is back tonight to take on Nebraska out in Seattle. That's a 9:30 tip with Bruce Weber on the call on BTN. That'll keep you up.
Wow.
Bruce Weber's unique voice. Yeah, he's the analyst on tonight's Nebraska-Washington broadcast. But 9:30, so get a Grandpa Nap in. But back-to-back ball tonight. John Walker stops by at 9 because after Creighton gets done on the East Coast, they come home for Saturday against Marquette, who may still be complaining about the officiating or taking care of some bruises. That was bully ball last night at MSG, in which St. John's beat Marquette.
What a great game.
Old Big East basketball.
5:30, Benetti and Raftery. Oh, it was in heaven.
And then
Great
Brandon
game.
Vogel from Hale Varsity stops in at 9:40. That's the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard on this hump day, which used to be National Letter of Intent Signing Day on 1620 The Zone. right, welcome back in on a Wednesday. A little bit later, John Walker will join us. The lines are tight tonight. Creighton is a 3.5-point favorite. Nebraska 2.5.
Let me double check for you. I saw 3.5 this morning for Creighton. I did not check for Nebraska. The Huskers are a 1.5-point favorite.
Ooh.
Or 1.5 point, not favorite.
But
No.
still.
They're a 1.5-point favorite. 1.5-point favorite. That line has moved. From now that I'm a betting expert, okay, when I call myself a betting expert,
All right.
by no stretch of the imagination, I wouldn't touch that game with a 39.5-foot pole.
It's a big pole.
I would not. Now, I do want to say this. Deceptively, Midwest teams have been doing pretty well on the West Coast. Pre-Nebraska game, like Midwest East Coast teams were actually 7-5 traveling to the West Coast to play those teams. Now 8-5. Now that might have moved because there might have been a game or two since then. But so it's not that big of a factor. At the same time, when you're playing Midwest team, West Coast team, I don't care. I don't want to touch it.
Nebraska has been in Seattle since yesterday. They're not even coming back until tomorrow.
Nice.
They've treated this like an NBA road trip.
I'm pretty sure
Got
Fred
some
Hoiberg
breweries for
talked
them.
about he talked to John Cook about how when they went out there to the West Coast, how they would do their trips and how they would handle it, and they've made it into a full thing. I mean, the body clock is going to be ready to go.
Like Michigan State though went 0 for LA. They got beat last night. UCLA. Mick Cronin's postgame pressers are always well worth it, and there's a lot of things about Mick Cronin that probably rub people the wrong way. Guy can coach.
Yeah,
all of a sudden now they've turned things around, and they're as long as they don't have to fly around the Statue of Liberty, they're not a bad team.
As long as they're not soft and embarrassing. Apparently, they're a pretty good basketball team, according to Mick Cronin.
Three-way tie.
He's not wrong.
Three-way tie in the Big Ten now.
I know.
Michigan State started 9-0, and
that conference, it's almost like every week and a half. It's just like someone else's. You're kind of sitting there being like, they're the best team, then they're not the best team. We'll see what happens.
Purdue probably is carrying the mantle this morning.
I think so.
Hey, do you think, Jimmy, do you think Josh Dix will look good in a KU uniform next year?
Probably. Just pay him enough. Yeah.
Good-looking wing that can shoot the basketball?
Is that the slogan? Is that what's on Bill's self office?
Oh, they want a bag and cash and he's just solid. Just a stud.
Josh Dix seems like the prime guy to be playing at Kansas next year.
And the NIL possibilities with that name are endless.
Well, you go from Hunter Dickinson to Josh.
Well,
Dix.
they went from Grady Dick to Hunter Dickinson.
This is true.
To Josh Dix.
That's right.
They got a little weird thing going on there.
Kansas basketball. It's all about the D and not defense.
Good morning, Andrew.
Drew.
That was pretty funny.
How about that though? That is like they could have a Grady Dick.
They could have it all.
They could have a Hunter Dickinson, and if, by chance, if Josh Dix from Council Bluffs wants to transfer from Iowa and go to KU, that's a bag of dicks.
Yeah, exactly.
Or he could go to Creighton.
That is incredible.
Hey, I see what you just slipped in there.
I see what you just did.
Hey, do you guys like Neil Diamond?
Yes, yes, I do. Yes. Why?
Would you go to a Neil Diamond concert?
So
that sounds like
back in the day, yes. When Neil was at full health.
That sounds like a great
How about
band
you,
name.
young whippersnapper?
No, I like Neil Diamond. That sounds like a great band name, though. Diamond and the Dicks.
A 50s band, probably.
I mean, have you ever seen Coming to America?
Yes.
Great soundtrack.
Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, I know. I love Coming to America. Good morning, my neighbor. Good morning.
And how did you not know Strike? Come on now.
I know. There's a lot of things that I don't know.
I will say your generation doesn't know the good classic movies like Animal House.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think I'm more so in the minority here. I think that my generation in general has done a pretty good job. I just myself, in particularly, haven't done that great of a job.
Ace Ventura is not a good movie.
It's a great movie. Pet Detective is a great movie.
Dan Marino was terrific in it.
New England Clam Chowder.
All right, that's all.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay.
Wow.
Our calls are
still
the best.
processing that group of players that KU has had. Things have changed since I was there.
I'm trying to think if there's another one that we can add to that.
You could, I don't know if he's still alive, but former longtime NBA assistant coach Dick Harder.
Now we're doing
assistant with the Pacers. He could join the staff.
Is there any famous Richard that's been on Kansas for the last?
Richard MacArthur?
Richard Scott?
Richard Scott. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't know. I mean, we're coming up on Denzel Valentine Day. Ooh. For all the old school Big 8 listeners out there of Denzel Valentine playing at KU.
Denzel Valentine.
Darnell Valentine. That's
Denzel's the other one.
I was about to say Denzel Valentine was a bull who played for Michigan State. Yeah,
Darnell Valentine also played for the
Denzel
Cavaliers. Valentine.
Talk about a guy that I got completely wrong. When the Bulls drafted him, I was so excited. I was like, let's go. Let's go. That guy's going to be a superstar.
We're not talking about the Bulls today.
I know. Sorry. What do you want to talk about today? Rick Pitino's still alive.
Not the fourth quarter that happened last night at the United Center. That's what I don't want to talk about.
It's a hell of a win. They needed it, but they don't really need it anymore. At this point, they shouldn't be winning.
No, you shouldn't say like Brooklyn last night. Brooklyn pulled off an amazing comeback. They scored 6 points in the last 6.1 seconds.
99-97.
They don't get the memo.
Tracy McGrady? Oh.
That's the one thing about the Bulls. The Bulls literally made a trade. They traded one of their best players who's having a pretty good season to get their own first-round pick back. And now they're winning games. And they're beating the Miami Heat by 10 points. So stupid. That franchise can never get it right. They're awful.
Does not make me feel any better that we lost to the Bulls last night.
Who are you feel? So you're feeling better about the Kings at this point, or you're feeling better about the Heat? I mean, both of your teams are a little bit in no man's
I'm
land.
not going to be happy tonight when I see De'Aaron Fox playing with a Wemby against the Hawks. Okay? He should be in Sacramento, but I get it. The Heat are... I'm struggling with the Heat because I got the guy who thinks he's God's gift to basketball, who thinks he's 25 and not 35. And I'm surprised last night he didn't show up on the concourse selling coffee at the UC. They're like, hey, you guys remember me? Both you fan bases love me. I'm Jimmy Butler.
Well, they did actually like Jimmy in Chicago. Jimmy didn't burn any bridges down in Chicago.
Jimmy always burns bridges.
Well, that's a good point.
Anybody that is named Jimmy burns bridges. Spelled with a Y, not an I-E.
Yeah.
Spelled with a Y. They always burn bridges.
They're a bridge burner. That's what I call them.
Looking back, yeah.
Now, all I could think last night watching the part of the St. John's Marquette game, one of the things that came to mind, first of all, kudos to St. John's. St. John's took a chance on Pitino. There were 7 to 8 schools that could have taken a chance on Pitino, and St. John's said, you know what? You're having a hell of a run at Iona. We're going to hire you, okay? And, St. John's basketball at the time was like, and they've gone through some bad hires.
Yeah.
I mean, Chris Mullen showing up to Omaha without socks on and loafers and intentionally getting thrown out of a game was like the peak St. John's recent basketball success. So they hire Pitino. I'll give it to Pitino. If Pitino doesn't leave Kentucky, if he stays at Kentucky, we probably are talking about him as the greatest basketball coach of all time.
Correct.
Instead of going to the Celtics. So if he would have stayed at Kentucky, because he was rolling. So he's had quite the journey, let's say, okay, on and off the floor.
Yeah.
But he comes to a place that is ideal for him. And remember, look at his age. Like, he is doing what he's doing at about the same age that Bobby Knight was starting to peter out at Texas Tech. So St. John's takes a chance on Pitino. Everybody's like, oh, man, this is the mob boss. This is great. It's going to be fantastic. We got Al Capone coaching our basketball team. It's a perfect fit. But you're like, I don't know if this is going to work in this day and age of NIL and portal and all that stuff. And he says, well, whoa. I'm Rick Pitino. They changed their roster. Then you look at what Pitino said, and he said that he would win. The Big East, this is great.
Yeah, he warned everyone.
They're 11-1. They've won 9 in a row. They fit the identity of the city. They play bully ball. And what I was thinking last night, watching the atmosphere at MSG,
the Garden,
is how would you like to be playing against St. John's in the Big East tournament in March?
No.
And have to play there with the way that St. John's is playing right now? What that building will be like? And especially since, I mean, they're a long way from being done. They got UConn twice. and they still got to play host to Creighton. But they could be the number 1 seed in the Big East tournament at MSG playing at night. Oh, my God. Good luck to the team that has to play against them.
I like watching them.
Yeah.
I just like watching them. They are big. They are long. Like the shortest guy on their starting 5 is 6'4". I mean, they are athletic. Rick Pitino they're 6 deep at this point, too. They really only play 6 guys who have meaningful minutes. Now they got into foul trouble yesterday, so they're bringing a bunch of guys for fouls. And
who didn't get into foul trouble in that game?
That entire Marquette, I think at one point 4 of the 5 starting Marquette players had 4 fouls, which is I've never seen anything like that before. But St. John's, they're long, they're athletic, they're fast, they crash the boards. They had 3 guys who had double-doubles yesterday. They had 3 separate players who had double-doubles. It's absolutely ridiculous. RJ Luis is great. Ejiofor is awesome. They got
hey that win
Richardson. They got the Seton Hall transfer who Pitino yesterday gave credit to Seton Hall for developing him into like a legitimate player. Like they are a really good team. Pitino is. I love that he wears the suits. He is who he is. He's unapologetically is who he is. He told in the post game yesterday that he wanted to kill himself when they were missing free throws.
Well, he wanted to get frostbite here.
I mean, he's Rick, and they're winning, and the Big East is better for it.
Didn't the year before he get COVID?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Omaha's been weird to Pitino.
Hey, but that win on New Year's Eve is sitting pretty well on Creighton's resume.
Looks better and better every day.
The thing that I like is one, they got quite the interesting collection of talent. Is they don't shoot the 3 ball very well. They are god awful at the free throw line, and that's when he said I wanted to kill myself is the question that was asked about free throw shooting. Oh, I could listen to him and Raftery talk.
Same.
So after the game, Bill Raftery was interviewing him.
Yeah.
They should have just pushed the Muskies and the Hoyas aside and just let those 2 talk and just carry it live.
They got FS2.
But they play bully ball. I mean, they're a tough team to play. Marquette can go into the weeds like that, but there's also the part of Marquette can't play defense without fouling. Yeah. And they ride the roller coaster of Cam Jones, who got into foul trouble in the first half. And the next thing you know, he's on a heater of 13 of their 16 points and they're back into the game. But St. John's, they don't shoot it well from the arc. And usually that's kind of be a death knell. They don't shoot it well at the free throw line. But damn, they get on the glass. They defend you. There was a stretch at the end of the game where Marquette was trying to run action to get a 3-point shot off. Oh. And there were St. John's defenders everywhere. It looked like they were playing 5-on-7 on the floor. So St. John's is back. It's great for the Big East because, UConn hasn't gone anywhere. And I love that Pitino's identity is exactly what New York City is. Like if he was coaching at Miami, he would be tanned.
Yeah.
Like Pat Riley.
He would have some Botox, so he would look younger.
Yeah.
He would be tan. He would be in shape. He would have a lot of money.
Slick back hair.
Okay. Because anybody you run into Miami these days all looks young. They're tan. They're fit. They all have money.
They wear a lot of white.
And they got a
we couldn't fit in then.
They got a job. They got a big time job.
They're real
right
estate
now in
agent.
Miami. In New York City, they are the identity of that city. And MSG is better for it. That was great last night.
Yeah.
I mean, you thought you were watching a Knicks playoff game in there.
Rick Pitino, if he just walked into a room, I would not know if he's coaching basketball or doing the church collections. But I absolutely love it. I mean, he is who he is. He is who he is. He's unapologetic about it. And I think his players love it and his players play for him. I love that you brought up that it was a minute left in the second half, and it was one of the best defensive possessions I've ever seen a team run. They were absolutely electric in that big stretch of the game. And man, they had 6 offensive rebounds 5 minutes into the game.
Well, Benetti kept mentioning at one point, I think St. John's had 13 offensive rebounds and Marquette had 15 total rebounds.
Crazy.
It's bully ball, and it's working. And to think that they are a loss in Omaha away from being unbeaten. And I can't wait for Friday night. So
can't wait for this crazy stretch.
St. John's goes to Gamble. It's not Hartford.
Yeah.
It is a small arena where St. John's is feeling themselves. All of a sudden, UConn and Liam McNeely is going to be back.
Best coach in basketball against Dan Hurley.
Was this so? Hurley and Pitino get highlights on ESPN. Like ESPN, for a multitude of reasons, ignores the Big East. But because of Hurley and Pitino, I imagine that in the A block, there was St. John's Marquette highlights last night.
Probably. I did not. I went right to bed after the Northwestern game. I was not up for SVP.
Did we win?
Night. We won, but Northwestern's not going to win another game this year.
Well then,
but I imagine so too. But I texted John Walker yesterday, our guest who's going to be coming up at 9:00. I go, Big East basketball is better when St. John's is around, when St. John's is competitive. And it's like you have a legitimate 4-team race in the Big East this year. And the Big East tournament is only going to be better because those probable semifinals matchup between Marquette, Creighton, St. John's, and UConn are going to be must-see TV.
Anytime we can mention Mullen, Barry, and Jackson, when St. John's does something, the world is a better place.
That Run TMC.
And tonight, we get an 8:30 local game in Providence, Rhode Island for Creighton and Providence. Back to back.
Back to back.
Creighton plays at 7:30, Nebraska at 9:30. Get a nap in. We'll get into both of those games, as Matt was alluding to. John Walker joins us at 9, Brandon Vogel as well on 1620 The Zone. All right, a little bit later, we'll give you an opportunity to win $100 to finish the play. Could be a Just normal play. Could be a big-time play.
Could be a run up the middle for 3 yards that leads to
We
a second
should
and
do
7.
that.
Could be a what was that play? Was that LeGarrette Blunt in the Eagles Patriots Super Bowl just running for a 4-yard gain?
Pat Summerall. And
you got it.
Rathman, gain of 3 yards.
Have you done any prop bets yet for the buzzless Super Bowl that is coming your way on Sunday?
You said it yesterday.
Who's doing the anthem?
I don't even know.
Yeah. Just get Chris Stapleton.
I need to give you credit.
You know what? Hold one second. Okay, so this just adds to the buzzless Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I don't know who's doing the anthem.
I thought that yesterday.
I'm going to guess it's Alicia Keys.
That actually is like a good just every year you could guess.
Just guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's Alicia Keys. If I had to.
Oh, no. Who is it? John Batiste. Okay.
Oh, he'll do it on the piano probably.
Damn, he is
so talented.
I thought you said John the Baptist. I was like,
no, Jean Baptiste. No, not the Baptist. He is. I'll tell you something right now.
Ooh, trombone shorty.
No one makes more magic with their fingers than Jean Baptiste. Okay, I mean that. And some people might think that's like some innuendo that I was trying to make a joke. That's not a joke. And that guy is one of the most talented musicians ever. Period. And not enough people know. I love how you know who he is. I love how you deeply respect who he is, because not a lot of people deeply respect that guy. I want to give you credit though. You said yesterday that you're calling it a buzzless Super Bowl that's not getting a lot of run, that it's a Super Bowl that you feel like nobody really cares about or anything like that. And I
the greatest one.
Immediately when you said that, I go, that's a crazy statement. Like, it's the Super Bowl. It's the big game. It's what we look forward to every year. It's the biggest sporting event in America. And then once again, I turned on ESPN yesterday, and it was almost like it was just a C block. Hey, it's going on, And then they brought on a reporter, and the reporter was like, yeah, the Chiefs look calm. They've been here before. Oh. There's a sense of calmness about them. Football. It's almost like the Patriots. And then they just cut away, and they went back to the NBA and how Nico Harrison is the stupidest human ever. Like, it's just. I think you're right. I don't know why people don't. I know why people don't care, but people don't really care, and I care very greatly.
Watch, it'll be the best game ever. The tush push final play, all that stuff.
No.
I didn't say they were going to get it.
We do not need that.
I hope both teams have fun, but I did make my Super Bowl bet yesterday. So,
the Super Bowl coverage on 1620 The Zone, because it's happening and we will talk about it, is brought to you by Moose Roofing at OSI Oakland. So your first bet was?
So for people at home who don't know how I bet, I do about $30 a week. Okay. Mm-hmm. Right. I just kind of do 3 $10 bets, 6 $5 bets, whatever, but I keep myself to that 30, maybe it'll go to 40 range. I never go above 40. For the Super Bowl, I decided, you know what? I'm not going to make all these different little $5 prop bets like I have in the past with the Gatorade and with the coin toss and the over-under on the national anthem and what song Kendrick will play next. I made one big bet. Okay. I put $40, don't hate me, on Philadelphia money line and Jalen Hurts to score a touchdown.
I'm not going to hate you. I think
parlayed that.
I think Philadelphia is going to win.
Oh, come on.
I just thought Philly.
You sound like me.
I think it's going to be. I don't know who's going to win. I am very confident it's going to be a 3 to 1 point game. I think it's going to be a game that comes down to the absolute wire. I think that these two teams are so evenly matched, and especially on the defensive side, where yes, Vic Fangio is a very different coordinator than Steve Spagnuolo, but there's very similar aspects of them where, number one, Chris Jones, I mean, it starts in the trenches with the Chiefs and how dominant he is, and with Karlaftis coming off the edge. Like, it's kind of the same thing with the Eagles. You have Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis in the middle who kind of manhandle people, but then you also have guys like Josh Sweat coming off the outside. But then you look at the secondary of the Chiefs and you look at the secondary of the Eagles, it's not necessarily about the fact that they just have incredible athletes up and down both those rosters. They're both just physical. They both just hit you. They both just tackle you. They both just make sure you go down to the ground. Like, these are two teams that don't allow a lot of yard after catch. So it just comes down to the offensive side of the ball. And do you think that Spags is going to figure out Saquon? Or do you think that Mahomes is going to just lead the Chiefs to another victory like it always does.
Spags, look at his history in big games with his rush defense. I mean, 18 straight games they haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher in the playoffs.
Crazy.
And then the other part is Kansas City's pass defense against some of the top pass offenses this year has been really good, and Philadelphia's passing offense is now starting to struggle again. It hasn't. I mean, for the amount of talent that they have on that side of the ball of weapons for Hurts, they're starting to struggle again throwing the football. But I think by the time we get to kick off, Philadelphia will be a favorite.
I saw them at plus money on the money line, and I thought that was way too valuable to take, so I just hammered it. I honestly, I think it's a pick'em game. I think it's pick'em. I think they're just both two great teams, and you can spin the wheel however you want to convince me that either one is going to win. Like that's just kind of how it is. Because at the end of the day, Kansas City has Patrick Mahomes, but that Philadelphia roster, you'll be hard-pressed to find me another roster that talented.
I just hope that if by chance Kansas City pulls an upset on Sunday, that people give them props on Monday.
Not yet. You don't get to pull the underdog yet. Not yet.
They're going to be an underdog.
But you're right about the second part. They win 3 straight, arguments over. I mean, that's all there is to it.
He's the greatest of all time. You know what?
This is what the Super Bowl comes down to.
It's so tough.
This is why it's buzzless and people are miserable unless you're rooting for both teams, is because you're either going to have the Eagles fans winning another Super Bowl,
which will be frustrating,
or you're going to have to hear about a three-peat and all of the things that you just said.
It's going to be a real conversation of whether or not he's the greatest of all time.
Well, I don't think you would. No. I think you would. There's no conversation.
13 seconds and coming back to
5 Super Bowls in the first 7 years, and you got 4. I mean, come on, bro. There would be not a discussion. And you would also retire the discussion of the Cowboys, the Niners, the Steelers, and the Patriots dynasty, and the Chiefs would be the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL.
He's won 3 straight.
That goes without saying.
There I said it. The first, so I've done 2 prop bets because I always think outside of the box.
That you do.
The first down, Hollywood Brown, because the Chiefs have tried to get him involved right away. And then the other one is, this is the first time I've ever done this, and I didn't even know this is what this was called. So I have put money on my first octopus bet.
Okay, explain.
I've heard of this.
This has nothing to do with the Red Wings.
It has only happened one time in the history of the Super Bowl. Ironically, the last time these two teams played, it's when a player scores a touchdown and then scores the subsequent 2-point conversion. Yeah. That's Jalen Hurts. So Jalen Hurts I got him at plus 1350.
Wow.
Okay,
yeah.
What was the Hollywood Brown first down?
Plus 750.
Really?
Yep.
I thought that would be higher.
Little slant.
Well, no, because they featured him the last 2 playoff games. They've tried to get him involved in the opening series.
Early. Like 15-yard out.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of the octopus. So some of my friends' favorite bets are both teams to have 1 touchdown and 1 field goal in the first half. Mm-hmm. So for them to both do that. My favorite thing to do, though, and I don't do it a lot because you can get in a hole very, very quickly, and it's very degenerate, but you bet on every result of drive. So like this drive is going to result in the punt. This drive is going to result in a field goal. This drive is going to result in a turnover or a touchdown. It is the most lunacy betting ever because, you go into a game and you do your research. I do my research. I'm like, all right, Jalen Hurts, like he's going to score a touchdown. Probably, like that's just what they do. They just always seem to get in those positions where whether Hurts is on the 1-yard line or even when he's scrambling in the red zone, like he is a featured part of the red zone offense. So I know, hey, Jalen Hurts scored a touchdown. That's a good bet, right? Hey, I know I've watched a lot of Philadelphia Eagles. I know that their money line, that's a good bet. You have no idea whether or not the team's going to kick a field goal, the team's going to punt, or the team's going to, you just go on your phone and you go, you know what? I got a feeling that this drive, with how this game is going, with how much football I've watched in the past, I'm going to bet that they're going to score a touchdown. And I've made a lot of money doing it. And it's the stupidest thing ever.
There's a little controversy, though, in New Orleans.
There's always controversy in New Orleans.
Did you guys see the screenshot that's being shared at the Superdome? They put up Eagles Super Bowl champions. So is the Super Bowl already decided?
Great. Is it already written?
So now the Chiefs are going to be angry.
I actually saw the...
they're going to win by 6.
I don't know. Who did they pay off? Did the payment not get there?
Brady?
They had for a while yesterday. They had up Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
What if they made a movie? What if they made a movie like Trading Places about that? But instead of like the orange, crop report, it's like the Kansas City Chiefs bribe money. Like, how would you feel? What if it was a great movie?
Just think about
the plot of the movie was trying to intercept the money that's going to the referees from the Kansas City Chiefs.
And then all of a sudden, Chiefsaholic breaks out of prison.
Exactly. Oh my God.
And he's involved as well.
Is there a 30 for 30 on that yet?
I think there's a documentary.
Yeah. Okay.
That is out about him.
There should be a full-on 30 for 30. What if I told you a man would risk everything to see everything?
Hey, it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Fremont.
Do you blame him? Him?
Fremont Fred texts in. Nobody cares about the Super Bowl this year because Sunday is my 50th birthday.
All right, yeah, Fred. What are we doing, Fred? Text in the text line.
Watching football.
I don't know. That will not be a normal party. It probably will be animals and midgets involved.
This will be the first time.
Fred, I want my invite. That's right up my alley.
First time ever where I have to go to school or work on the day after. Well, first time since high school. I'll have to go to school or work.
Welcome to adulthood.
Yeah.
I know.
He'll be here.
The Super Bowl.
That's
always
after 22,000 steps.
I always got the day off.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? I was relatively calm for the Bills game until the fourth quarter. Like I did a lot more sitting.
Yeah.
But when it's nut cutting time, it comes back in you, and that's fun.
I've told the way I've approached this season has been a little bit different.
Jersey? Well, you wear a jersey.
So you're
Sunday?
pacing?
No,
are you pacing pregame or
no?
Okay.
No, like I'll sit and then there'll be a play upcoming, like third down, and I don't know, key situation.
Sure.
And then I will get up and I will walk around, and then I will go to a different part of the house where I can still see the TV, and then I might come back and sit down, and then I will get up.
Jesus, you're me.
It's quite it is quite the calisthenics. I will tell you that.
I am a bad pregame. Pregame, I'm terrible.
Yeah.
Pregame, I'm a wreck. Like I've thrown up before big games.
I can't judge because it's just
when I get in the game though, I'm fine. Like when I'm watching the game, I'm actually a pretty calm watcher. But to be fair, I haven't watched a big game that my team's played in maybe like 5 years. So
almost 30.
I'll let you guys know how it is.
Yeah. I live vicariously.
But Nebraska basketball plays on Sunday at 1 against Ohio State at PBA. Mm-hmm. It is their Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It is there.
John Walker, Brandon Vogel, a little bit later. We do have a problem in college basketball. More people are watching college basketball now that we've, football is down to one game. And the college basketball has been really, really good, except for people like, Mike Woodson. Also, there has to be a discussion about coaching at your alma mater. I think you need to think twice before you accept the job at your alma mater. Because right now we're on a run of where guys are not doing so well at their alma mater.
No.
But Mike Woodson, thanks for playing.
Yeah, donezo.
But so college basketball has a replay review problem that the end of games take forever.
Forever.
And part of last night's game at MSG between St. John's and Marquette just reiterates the point that women's basketball is better than men's basketball.
Because of why?
Because they're playing quarters.
Okay, I was going to say. Is it the 4 10
men's
quarters?
College basketball, because we were shooting free throws in that game with 10 plus minutes to go. If we're playing quarters, we don't have to worry about that.
Right.
I've been a big proponent of men's basketball. I loved when women's basketball went to quarters. Now, I don't want the advance the ball like they do in the women's game,
right,
or in the NBA, but I would like quarters in men's college basketball, 4 10-minute quarters, and I would like to see high school basketball go to 2 16-minute halves.
It is one of those things where if referees are making bad calls in a game, it really affects the game more so than other sports, because what if you're in the bonus with 12 minutes to play?
A lot of free throws.
You're going to be there for a long time.
You're just going to manufacture so many points just by driving the ball. Because nowadays in college basketball, how the rules are interpreted, if you just drive the ball to the basket, there's a decent chance you're going to get a foul call and you're going to be ending up at the free throw line. But this is the ultimate example of tradition is just peer pressure from dead people. Because, we've been doing 20-minute halves in men's college basketball for so long now, and that's the tradition. And even though that you're completely right, like the game would move quicker and it would be faster and maybe even more entertaining if men's college basketball went to quarters, they'll never do it because it's tradition, because that's how we've done it before. And despite the fact there's a more efficient way to do things, we refuse to do it.
Didn't they experiment like in the NIT or the CBI or something like that?
They have, and several years ago, actually, Bill Self told me that he was talking about this is the only men's college basketball, only one that's halves. And he really believes that at some point they'll go to European rules and go to quarters, which would change everything. So when you bring that up, let's do it. They have experimented before. And Matt's right, tradition. But if we've learned anything in college sports lately, tradition's out the window. Why not? Let's try it.
Geography still matters.
Okay.
I mean,
Brian Windhorst yesterday, though. Shout out.
Our own
Omaha guy. But he was on PTI yesterday, and he goes, it's like he was talking about the NBA trade deadline, and he compared it to college football realignment. And he says, Nebraska goes to the Big Ten, and then everybody goes and moves conferences. And yeah, it's not incorrect, but like
it did start.
I guess
he would have been better using
Oklahoma.
I was watching that. Yeah,
I feel like Oklahoma is the better example.
You kind of felt like Nebraska was with their tiff with Texas. They were looking. The Texas-Oklahoma to the SEC is the bigger shot.
That's the bigger shot.
But I like that he stayed local. Was he doing it from his house here in Omaha?
He was via satellite, but I don't know if he was via satellite. I bet he's on the road right now.
His schedule. So he's explained his schedule on air before, but last week he was in front of the Eiffel Tower because he was over in Paris with the Spurs and the Pacers.
And not the one in Las Vegas.
Sham Charania.
I would like to see Windhorst's passport. I bet he's got some great stamps.
Oh, I bet he does. Sham Charania, I think, has gotten 9 hours of sleep in the last 10 days. Not a joke.
He, by the way, I don't think he enjoys being on with Kendrick Perkins. Every time he's on with Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins, his facial reactions, could kill a man.
He's a pretty serious guy.
You guys are friends. I forgot.
We've talked. Very nice guy, but he's a very dialed in, serious dude. And it's a little funny watching him because there are a lot of like sport people who would go to his gym, who would go up to him and try to talk to him or whatever. And you can see that he handled it really well. But at the end of the day, he's just a dude trying to get a workout in.
Like, what are you going to do when you approach somebody like that in a gym? Hey, give me a scoop. Give me a scoop.
But like guys would try and go up and like give NBA takes or like try and talk ball with him or stuff like that. And
Max out today.
Like because you could tell who his friends were in the gym because the gym that I went to was a very good community. Like I went long enough to start to meet some of those people, but you could tell the people that he didn't know who would come up to him and kind of just pepper him with stuff. When I went up to him, first off, I saw him a bunch of times and never said anything because I didn't want to be weird, but I used the broadcaster card. Like, hey, nice to meet you, man. Like, I'm also a broadcaster. I know his story. I know his story about how he was in high school and he contacted John Lucas III's agent. And that's how he started his like basically connection empire. The guy just started cold calling agents and started like writing stuff and like absolute grinder. So we appreciated who I knew, like I knew him, but like it got a little, he's a serious dude. It got a little weird when he gets on ESPN and Perkins and Stephen A. Smith just start spewing out the mouth. Yeah, it gets uncomfortable.
You think people come up to Schefter on the street and give him their NFL takes?
I think Schefter though, like, I don't know. It seems like he just like doesn't care anymore. That he just keeps walking.
Yeah,
like,
I think being an insider like those guys is a miserable life. There's a reason why Woj said.
I think it is too, but I think that you have to like. There's got to be a 3-month period where those dudes do nothing, right? Like
but they can't. Like they're highly paid to be an insider, and then you get accused of being a mouthpiece for a particular agent or a league.
You get made fun of a lot. Like you get like there's a lot of jokes and things to be said about those dudes.
You put yourself out there.
Absolutely. All the 5 insiders that I can really think of are that come to the top of my head immediately when I think of insiders are Jay Glazer, Adam Schefter, Sham Charania, Adrian Wojnarowski, and Jeff Passan. And like those 5 guys have all like you and I can think of like instances where people like dogged on them for whatever reason. Just because they're reporting the news.
Yep. Again, a little bit later, John Walker. It's a double dose of hoops tonight. Creighton's on the road. Nebraska's on the road. Late night.
Rude.
Tight lines.
Tight.
Usually it's wild atmosphere at Providence when Creighton goes in there to play. They play some wild games as well. So that game's at 7:30 here on the Zone. Nebraska plays at 9:30. Goggles is back. Starting lineup. Wilhelm Breidenbach.
He scored like 9 points, I think, against Minnesota to like start the game. Like got on an absolute heater, and I was like, "What the hell am I watching?"
Nice kid.
Yeah,
interesting brief career at Nebraska.
Lived on my floor at 8N.
Who would have thought that when he transferred to Washington, he'd be playing a conference game against his old foes?
Who would have thought?
All right, 7:21. It's Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone.
Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes during the playoffs, which are down to one game. Which players are going off? Which ones are ice cold? With over 5 million happy players and $2 billion, what Underdog makes it fun and easy to cash in on all your favorite athletes' performances. They've got all your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. And every dog deserves a second chance. With Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back. Receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose. With their Pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats like yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and more. And we will have them. This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the football game on Sunday. There's only one. I'm not talking about the Puppy Bowl. I'm picking Travis Kelce to do something because it's going to be his day. No, I'm not talking about him proposing to his girlfriend. I'm just talking about football. Underdog is the best place to play Pick'em. Download the app, sign up with promo code ZONE, and deposit now to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. That's promo code ZONE. Must be 19 plus in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Visit ncpgambling.org. Cake is coming to Omaha Sunday, June 1st. Oh, I know what I'm doing for my anniversary at the Astro Amphitheater. Listen, with unsportsmanlike conduct, that's not this show. All week to win your way into the show. Details online at 1620thezone.com. But you listen to this show, we might give you some money later.
All right, welcome back in. Gary and Matt on a Wednesday, on a hump day with all of you. Creighton basketball day today. They're at Providence, who seems like Creighton is still being penalized for their early stretch, not rewarded for their current stretch.
Absolutely. And I think it's just one of those things where this team just needed to figure out who they were, especially without Pop Isaacs, and now they're finally hitting that road. But, I mean, college basketball, I mean, yeah, they're a much different team now than when they began the year, when they were playing those games and they were losing those games. So that's kind of just the nature of the beast, which is why when you play those non-con games, especially when you get into conference, every single game matters, especially when it comes to seeding and positioning yourself in the best place to make a run in the NCAA tournament.
And they're like forgotten. Like, there's like a lot of midseason coach of the years.
Yeah.
And there's some really, really good candidates. I think Auburn is a wagon.
Absolutely.
Auburn looks the same every night. They treat teams in the SEC like they're Division II teams. But Bruce Pearl won't win Coach of the Year, but should be in the running.
Yeah.
But like I look at Mac, like look at the season that they have gone through, the curveballs that have been thrown their way, and all of a sudden quietly they're in second in the Big East, and they handed St. John's their only loss, and they're in this stretch of some difficult games that's going to define where their seed is. But Creighton is like, people forget about, like, you don't even see like Mac's name mentioned as others considered for Coach of the Year in college basketball.
Absolutely.
Like even Kalkbrenner's going to win the Defensive Player of the Year again, but you don't hear as much about him. Like just quietly, because a lot of the national people wrote Creighton off at the beginning of the year after that stretch. Need to wake up and go, oh, they're on a win streak, and they could be in position to be playing Saturday against Marquette, to be in a really good position to possibly be in first place in the Big East, which is wild to think. Whether the Big East is down and it's not as top-heavy it's been in the past, it's still wild to think that 2 months ago you would be saying this about this Creighton team. Now, with that said, tonight's a tricky game.
I don't think anyone would have thought we would be talking about them being 9-2, second place in the Big East, with a opportunity to get a top 7, top 6 seed if this next stretch against Marquette, St. John's, and UConn goes well after they lost to Georgetown. Like, Georgetown was the low point of the season.
Good.
No, it's not. I mean, they
but
lost
the St. John's
yesterday.
win is looking good.
It's looking great. But they haven't, during the 7-game stretch, they haven't been playing top competition, but they haven't got. They didn't drop one to Xavier like UConn did. They didn't lose to Butler. They didn't get scared. Like they didn't fumble a game that they definitely should have won. And I don't think that gets appreciated enough just amongst coaches in sports. It's like, oh, you're a better team, you're supposed to win. That happens all the time, and that's why we play the games, right? They've played these 7 teams. They were favored in all these games, and they won all the games, and they've parlayed all of this into momentum. I think you're right. Tonight will be a tricky game on the road against Providence, a team which they beat by 20 at CHI, but that game until Isaac Trout absolutely caught heat in the second half was really close. I mean, it was a competitive game. Now that they'll be on the road, I agree with you. I think it is going to be a bit of a slug them out, especially to start. We'll see if they can get that off the bench contribution.
Providence played well against St. John's at MSG on Saturday. When they were here, and not having Bryce Hopkins again for the second straight year, I like Kim English. They have an identity. And they usually are very athletic. I mean, they have some dudes. They don't necessarily all play well together, but there's just strange games when Creighton plays there. But when they played here, I didn't think Providence was motivated at all.
No.
They looked like they were here to get in, get out, and not get crushed. And they took a beating. But at home, they're a different team. It'll be an 8:30 game. It can get to be a wild atmosphere in there. I mean, Mac is not Ed Cooley walking in the door, which Ed Cooley had another incident last night in Cincinnati at the end of the game. Playing at Providence is weird for Creighton. It's just, sometimes they'll go to Georgetown and you have a hiccup and you go, how did you lose? Or this year, Georgetown played really, really well this year, and that was at the beginning of the year. They'll go to Creighton, or they'll go to Providence, and you go, whoa, how is this game going to overtime? What the hell kind of a shot was that? Because that seems like what happens there. That's why I'm a little bit not surprised that the line is so small. Because if you looked at it just at first glance, you'd be like, why is it just 3.5?
Yeah. Well, I think with Providence too. Now, look, they're 11-11. They're 5-6 in the Big East. So, I mean, their tournament hopes is pretty much shot at this point. But you're getting to the point with Creighton where when they play teams like Xavier, like Nova, like Providence, it's almost as if those teams that they're playing, this is a massive, massive game for them because this is a ranked opponent. This is the opportunity at this point of the season to maybe get some momentum through February, to go on a crazy run, to put yourself in a opportunistic place in the Big East tournament. So maybe you do become a bid stealer, right? Where with Creighton, when they play those teams who are in the middle of the pack, they're favored. They look at it as, okay, we're supposed to win this game. And I think that's always a little tricky when the other team that you're playing against seemingly has more to play for than you do, or has more motivation to play for than you do. But this game is so important because Creighton's going to go through Murderer's Row in the Big East in their next 3 games. I mean, they get Johns, they get Marquette, and they get UConn back to back to back. And that's going to be a massive, massive part of the season. And when we have to start talking about Creighton, what are they going to do in the tournament? Not if they're going to make the tournament. I mean, they're basically a guaranteed lock at this point from what I've seen from Twitter and the brackets and whatnot. This next 3-game stretch after this Providence game will go a lot to decide if they're going to have a favorable seed and can really make a run in the tourney.
I don't know. They're a second weekend team.
I think they are right now. If Zugic and Isaac Trout continue to contribute off the bench like they have these last couple of weeks on this run that they've been on, I think the ceiling is really high for this team. And Jemiah Neal it took him a little bit, but he stepped up big time in the absence of Pop Isaacs. And I think that Jason Green and Mason Miller have been massive parts of this team from the defensive perspective. They've been playing some really good minutes on that side of the end, or that end of the court. And Frederick King at times has looked like a real dominant presence in the paint, especially when Kalk is out and on the bench. So I think that this team has a lot of pieces, and they've been figuring themselves out who they are. They continue that trend. Absolutely, they're a second weekend.
John and others have said that have been to a game at Providence that playing there is brutal. Ed writes in, he goes, I went to the Providence Creighton game last year. He goes, I heard words that I've never heard before from the student section. He goes, I had to turn to my wife and go, what did they say? He goes, it is nasty in there, especially when Providence is playing well, and all of a sudden you got a bunch of front-running Friars.
That's a good one.
I'd turn around and be like, well, yeah, your state's neither a road
I mean,
nor
look
an island.
look what they've done. Look what the 2 times that Ed Cooley has come back. I mean, it's vicious. It is one of the biggest mob capitals.
Rhode Island?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Kansas City of the East.
I mean, it's not featured in Ozark, but close.
Be.
I didn't know that. That's a great little tidbit from you. Skokie, Illinois used to be one of the biggest places for mob bosses.
And then Capone died, or what?
And I think they're all just dead. I mean, the mob is, I was talking to Josh Hodson about this over the weekend. We're going to run out of mob movies. All these guys who used to do the mob movies, the De Niro's, the Pesci's, rest in peace, Ray Liotta. Like,
damn, I never thought.
Like,
of that.
they are, all your mob guys are slowly getting old or dying, and it's like
gonna be Disney and musicals.
Think of that. I mean, you're going to have to. The closest thing we'll ever get is the Boston movies, because you still have Wahlberg and Damon and the 2 Afflecks, and Seth Meyers. You'll still get those movies.
You don't think Miles Teller will be doing a mob movie? Didn't it strike you as a mob guy?
Who would be the next great mob actors? Who would be the next generation of dudes? Could be
Timothy
mob
Chalamet is in everything, so he's going to be that guy.
I was going to say Timothy, because he's got the black hair and he's got it slicked back, and he could definitely be like a little like pesky piece of crap, Miles Teller's a good one.
Not Penn and Teller.
That's a good point, though. We're running out of
Freddie
people
Prinze
to play.
Jr.
But what storylines in mob movies?
I think the trope is gone, right? I mean, what else can we do with the mob? You know everything you need to know about the mob. They like their meats, and they like to kill people. And they like money.
Those are good things. Meat and money.
And they like
I'll have to ask the guys in the South Omaha Mafia if they like their meats. I don't think they're into the killing kind. They're not as strong as they used to be.
So old school, yes. But they still love the meat.
But
good food.
And construction.
Met somebody one time and they said, yeah, I'm part of the South Omaha Mafia.
Oh, did they have a business card or like
a LinkedIn profile and everything?
They did not send me their information.
Hi, I'm Christopher D. Stefano. I'm the leader
It came from a discussion on the show that I did not know that there was a South Omaha Mafia. And this person sought me out. Like, what? Well, it wasn't like I wasn't scared or anything.
Yeah, I would be.
They just said, yes, it's true. I was or is. I don't know. You ever retire from the South Omaha Mafia?
Once you're a mob member, you never. Once you're a made man, you
can never go back.
You can never be unmade unless you're Tommy. Then you just get alive.
Adam has a candidate, John Hamm.
Yeah, maybe
a good one.
Barenthal too.
John says, "Watch The Departed. Welcome to Providence."
Never seen it.
Gonna be a tough game.
Because they'll be lined up.
Oh, I'll be lined up outside the bus.
No, I'm trying to think of more mob.
See, it'll be
too bad the Blue Crew's not there with them.
Here will be the complete opposite of atmospheres. The place will be nutso. First of all, 8:30 game on the East Coast.
Yes,
that's what this game is tonight.
On a Wednesday, by the way, too.
Yeah,
that's tough.
Lots of Dunkin' coffee.
8:30 tip off on the East Coast for a Big East game.
Yeah.
Then on the West Coast, where people have no interest in supporting Washington basketball. Okay, the arena is okay.
It's a tiny baby arena.
Yeah, it is.
It's cute.
I was expecting more because, when you drive up, it's right across the parking lot from the football stadium.
Oh yeah, you'll miss it walking by.
And I was like, I bet this is really, really cool. And you walk inside, and you're like, it looks like an old gymnasium that they have fancied up.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't go to Washington games. That game starts at 7:30 tonight out in Seattle. You know that there will not be very many people there. Now,
you said
Nebraska has a large contingent of alums that are in Seattle. So anytime
they'll be there. Anytime
volleyball goes out to play UW, or when baseball or softball will go out there, there'll be a lot of red. But it's the atmosphere in Providence compared to the atmosphere in Seattle 2 hours later. Night and day.
7:30 on the West Coast on a Wednesday.
And I think so. I think the weather a little tricky in Seattle today. Possibility of snow.
Oh, that'll shut it down.
Yeah, and so any possibility of snow or anything like that, people in Seattle are like, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Seattle's weather is just weird. Like, they're on the West Coast, and you would think, oh, they're west. It would be, hotter, and the sun would be out, and it would be nice. And then you find out, no, it's gloomy. Like, the sun doesn't come out. You got to take your fish oils.
Some people enjoy that.
And your
Jimmy's mood is perfect for Seattle.
Absolutely
perfect for Seattle.
Give me some Soundgarden, and
yeah, it's
blow
cloudy.
Up the outside world.
I think Seattle is cloudy today, and literally, if you look on the forecast for the next 8 days, it's
winter
all
weather
clouds.
Advisory.
It's just clouds.
I love Seattle. I wouldn't mind living in Seattle.
Really?
Now, you embrace the day that you can see
the sun.
Well, the sun, and if you ever get the chance when it's really, really nice and you can see the mountain, you're cooking with peanut oil.
There saw it in the upper deck at Husky Stadium.
So it's going to rain starting at 12 o'clock, and then
surprise!
At 8 p.m., it's just going to switch to snow, which that's kind of dangerous. That's how ice starts and slick roads and bad conditions and crappy driving and crashes happen. So
there'll be very few people at the Nebraska-Washington game.
What do you think an over-under will be for that game?
For attendance?
Yeah.
Let me look what they announced, because they haven't been home.
Yeah. Edmondson Pavilion's not very big.
7:30 p.m., the weather's going to be crappy. They're going to be playing a team
under
that
5.
People are an alumni under 5.
Because there'll be, the nice contingent of Nebraska fans there. There'll be some loyal fans. Now, if Sean Kemp walks through the building, then they'll all come in droves and sell it out.
$4,000 over under?
That might be pretty close.
4.5.
So they just snapped a losing streak at Minnesota.
Hey, talk about Ben Johnson, the job he's doing, man.
All right, so their most recent game against UCLA, they had 7,709, but that's a familiar opponent.
That's a classic Pac-10 matchup.
Okay, they had Purdue in there in the middle of January. They announced 77, 89.
Okay.
So they'll announce something similar, but they'll be under, I'll say 48, 50.
They'll WrestleMania 3 it, you know? Be like 55 people in there, but they'll say world record 81,000 people.
Speaking of that, I thought about this the other day. We are very fascinated with attendance in game stories.
We are.
There was I think there was, this is a topic that came up a long time ago when the World Herald at the end of the season would do how many tickets were scanned at Memorial Stadium. And then there was a stretch where I think the World Herald writers, whether you were covering Creighton, Omaha, or Nebraska, would not put attendance in a game story. Like whether it was a sellout or not, they just, because that's like one of the things you do is, at some point you slip in what
all
the attendance is.
77,832 people rose to their feet.
And we've talked about this. We like our sports around here, so we put butts in seats.
Yeah.
We sell out some venues like, we football, volleyball, essentially Creighton basketball. Is it a big deal that on box scores there's attendance listed? Does it matter?
I enjoyed it. I used to read
So
them.
in professional sports, this became a new thing, is you announce in the box score, regardless of football, basketball, hockey, baseball, you announce what the attendance is, and then it is capacity. So like, let's say you play in a 19,000 seat arena and you announce 19,007. In the box score, it will say attendance 19,007, and then parentheses, it'll be 19,000.
Okay.
And the NFL, I don't know if they still do this, but the NFL used to always announce attendance and then no shows.
Oh.
But is it a big deal? Do you look when you see a box score? Do you look at the attendance? Because it seems like it's a thing around here where we either brag about it, okay, or we go, yeah, there ain't 17,000 people here.
Sure.
But when you wake up tomorrow and you look in the paper or the box score, it's going to say 17,145.
I think it matters. I think it matters because it's an indicative of where the program is at least on a consistent basis, right? If it's a Wednesday game at 8:00 and the attendance says that it's near capacity, I think that's something that you put in the paper or something that you look at and you're like, hey, the program's on the right trajectory, right? People who want to come and watch these games. I think
But then do you go, I was there and there were not 17,000 people there.
So then that's
like the Wisconsin
You
game.
put these 17,000 tickets sold.
That's not a box score issue, though. That's like people lying about that issue. That's like the arena issue. That's like the athletic department issue. That's not the problem with putting in the box score. That's just they're just not willing to be honest about how many.
Well, that's
people
what
are
goes in the
there.
box score then.
Sure, yeah, it's give or take. I care about it. I think from I don't know, from a broadcasting perspective, I always make sure when I was doing, games, we would get the box score or whatever, and it would say how many people are in the arena. I would try and slip that in there some way, shape, or form.
I used to be awkward with what I did.
It's cool little tidbit, but it depends. If you're if you're not getting a lot of people in the building, you don't really need to know what the capacity is, right? But if there are a lot of people in the building, I'm curious how much there is to sell. I don't know. It's one of those just weird sport things.
Supernovas are big on that. They love talking about the attendance.
But it's.
Do you think they would do an expose on how many of those tickets are actually bought?
No, they would not. No, because that's a difference. That's a major difference of how many people are buying your tickets and how many people are just there. I mean, that is a stark contrast. You want to talk about what matters, how many people are actually there compared to the actual number they put on the ticket? No. What actually matters is how many people are actually paying to go. Because what's the gate? Because that's the business.
It's ticket scanned.
Yeah. But that's the business, though. The business is selling money, is getting money. The business isn't necessarily we can, oh my God, there's 13,000 people here. That's incredible. Well, 11,000 people got here for free. So does that really matter at that point? If they're not really buying the product, is that really an indication of how you're doing as a program? I don't think so.
Has the World Herald done an expose since Rule's been the head coach about scanned tickets?
I haven't seen one. I haven't seen one that's gotten up big enough or gotten enough attention to see or read.
A good Sam question.
I would like to know, the Colorado game this past year.
I think that was part of the reason, though, that when the new Memorial Stadium project was rolled out and they were going to decrease the amount of seats in the stadium. I think part of the motivation of that was for sure, well, there's 85,000 seats or whatever in the stadium, but we're only scanning, or for the last couple of years, we've only been scanning X amount of tickets. And so we can sacrifice the amount of seats that are in the stadium for comfortability.
Some people's math is kind of a little bit fugazi. So last Wednesday, Omaha basketball played in Vermilion.
Yeah.
They announced 1,600.
I didn't think, watching it on TV, I did not think there were 1,600
So they scanned
people.
700 tickets.
Okay.
So whoever does the math, because everybody has their own form of attendance math when they do the attendance. Sometimes you have to be spot on because of your lease. It can either work for you or against you. But there's a lot of like minor league sports has their own formula on, okay, this is what we scan times blank, so we get to this number. But yeah, they announced 1,600 in Vermilion last Wednesday, and they scanned 700 tickets.
What attendance math does Vermilion have to do?
It's really
just
cold
count.
there.
Just count. Just go down the line and be like 1, 2. Everybody, put your hand up. All right. When I point at you, put your hand down. That's the attendance math.
Well, I imagine
they
do some formula involving the season tickets they have sold, and then factor in the scanned, and then they come up with that number. But that's a huge jump. They announced 900 more than actually were in the building.
They said double. That's crazy.
All right. Coming up a little bit later, John Walker will stop by. His thoughts on the Big East that has St. John's this morning at the top, and Marquette on a 2-game losing streak that'll come here on Saturday. Take on Creighton after they play Providence tonight. J-Dub will join us coming up at 9. Brandon Vogel as well. 1620 The Zone. All right, a couple emails here from TC. If a Creighton basketball fan that cheers for Nebraska football is a J-sker, what would you call a Marquette basketball fan that cheers for Wisconsin football?
A golden badger.
It. Yeah, I swear somebody...
A beagle. A beagle. They're a beagle.
There.
That's what they
There's
are.
your
They're
winner.
A beagle. I love that. Bark, bark. Bark, bark. Beagles.
A beagle.
A beagle. I know a couple beagles too. My
Shout out Snoopy.
My best friend, his girlfriend, she's a beagle. Actually,
Wait,
pretty sure the girl that I
his
went
girlfriend's
on.
a beagle?
You want to start that back over?
No, I don't. I don't
That
take it
poor
back.
dog.
I hope they're listening. The beagle. I don't like Badger fans. I don't like Badger fans. I don't like Cardinals fans, and I don't like Packer fans. I think that's my power ranking of fans that I don't like. There is nothing greater than when Badgers fans don't get a charge call. It is one of the greatest things ever. If
you've never been to Hilton.
If you've ever been in a building, if you've ever been in a building for a Wisconsin basketball game and they think it's a charge and they don't get it, it is, I can just hear the screams and the moans just in my dreams. It's awesome.
They got a lot of calls last night. They talk about a difference of programs, Wisconsin basketball to Indiana basketball. I did not know that stat. Indiana basketball has lost 21 straight times in Madison.
Really?
What the hell? You would think they would like trick one off.
Yo, Mike Woodson's got a lot of those bad stats. He's never been Northwestern. He's 0 against Northwestern. Has there ever been just a coach in college basketball, period, that's been 0 against Northwestern? I don't think. No. I mean, you're talking about one of the worst programs ever in CBB history. He doesn't have one win against him.
Indiana basketball will always be one hire away from being relevant.
Yeah.
They're asking the questions that once you start asking those questions, you know what the future is. I'm telling you, that people are going to think twice about going to your alma mater and coaching. It's not
there's
all
truth to that.
It's cracked up to be.
I follow a great podcast on Instagram, the Coach Siski podcast, and he talks about that, where he tells, it's a football podcast, but he tells coaches all the time, where he goes, don't do it. Don't do it. They will never love you like you love them. It just never works out. It just never goes the way you want it to go. Don't do that.
Does it work for announcers too?
Maybe. Announcers might be different.
This is a little South Omaha mob fun fact. Are you ready?
I love fun facts.
Now, let me sift through this. I want to make sure this person's dead before we. Okay. They are dead. Thank you, TC. Tony Biasi is his name. What began as a small-time bookmaking in his Owl Smoke Shop on 16th Street in the 40s would become a web of heroin trafficking and connections to the New York Mafia. In 1960, Biasi was sentenced to 15 years for narcotics after his attempt on the life of a partner turned informant went wrong. Biasi was paroled in 1970, died in 1991 in South Omaha, nearly 100 years old. He only had one other arrest in between in 1986.
Impressive.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
What a legend. Mm-hmm.
You think they have a tribute to him somewhere in South Omaha?
Probably a bench. Or maybe like an ashtray.
Ooh. I like that. I would want my own urinal, but
you said something earlier before we close this hour out. You said how you announced attendance got you in trouble?
Yeah.
Well, it didn't get me in trouble. It could just be awkward because I was calling women's basketball, and especially in the early years at KU when I started, those numbers could be. Whoa. It's not like you were like, and 16,300 fans watch Kansas win tonight over Iowa State. Usually it was, and 178 fans saw KU lose to Iowa State tonight, 91-62.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way.
Hey,
oops.
Jimmy, we've all been there. My first Nebraska women's game that I was doing, I wondered aloud on the air why they didn't put their weights. I was reading the starting lineup, and
it's valuable information. You got to know who has the advantage.
I was so used to men's sports that I'm like 6'3", and my partner looked at me and they were like,
we knew how much Stanley Roberts weighed.
Not a joke. And this is because this is a phrase that I said a lot when I did men's basketball and I was doing women's basketball for the first time. And there was a congregate in the paint and they were all going up for the layup or whatever. And I go, I almost said too many cooks in the kitchen. And I go, too many people there.
Too many John Cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah. And I go, and I like had to pause and I had to get out because like that is incredibly inappropriate to say, but I didn't think about that until it started coming out of my mouth. And I go, oh, I got to pull up. Got to pull up here.
Too many students playing basketball.
Yeah.
So for all the kids out there that are wondering, they do not put the weights of women's athletes. So, men, you go, 6'3", 215 pounds.
Yeah, he's a big boy. You don't say that about.
Why do they call her tractor trailer? Rest in peace.
But Oklahoma State back in the 90s actually had a mistake on a roster, and they did put the weights.
Oof.
They also had a player that was playing while she was pregnant.
Oh, my God.
Tough.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Take that, NBA players who need rest.
Yeah. She could have been player of the year in the Big 12. She didn't play the whole season. But God bless her, man. I don't know how she did it.
They gave the reward to the baby, too.
Somebody made a mistake, and Oklahoma State listed the weights of their female athletes.
Oof.
That person probably not working there anymore.
No, probably not.
All right, 2 more to go on a Wednesday on 1620 The Zone. This is an obscure Cars song.
It'll always be on the epitaph of Phoebe Cates and Judge Reinhold.
That's Jimmy. There's Matt. I'm Gary. Welcome in. Missed any of our fun and frivolity? It's up on the radio replay page.
Frivolity.
Like that word?
Yeah. Can I get a country of origin?
Nebraska.
Omaha. 50th and Capital. Did you guys watch the Big 12 schedule release party yesterday?
I did not. I did not have the honor to watch the Big 12 schedule release party.
My ticket rep called within 5 minutes hitting me up for money. I was like, whoa, slow down.
Whoa, slow your roll.
I haven't even finished watching the social media thing.
So KU is going to be back in their stadium, right?
Yep. Get our stadium back. 12-0.
I follow on TikTok, Lawrence Drone.
Isn't it nice? Yeah.
They do a lot of the stadium.
Yeah.
So they're keeping the side opposite the press box is staying the same?
Yeah, and then they're going to detonate it after next year and do it right. Though they should have done it all at one time, but it's going to look weird. So 3/4 of it will look, oh, this is nice. What the hell? So, yeah.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
I mean, that's going to be really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. But you have to get to a game down there.
I would like to.
Okay. Yeah.
So the Big 12 yesterday released their schedule, but they did it on ESPNU, True TV. I believe they were on Max.
Yes.
So very odd where they were. But, I mean, this is a 2-conference world that we live in.
Yeah.
And the Big 12 is just trying to play. I like Week 0 games. I don't know that I like Farmageddon going to Dublin if I'm a K-State or Iowa State fan.
No. I like it in Ames or Manhattan.
I couldn't agree more. Because those games they're rivalry matchups. They're meant to be played in hostile environments. It's meant to be a contentious place to be at, whether if you're an away fan or whether you're an away player or whatever. That's part of the fun of it too. That's rivalries.
Do they have Busch Light in Dublin?
Well, they better get more beer than the last time Nebraska was there because didn't they run out?
Yep. Hell yes.
I mean, they got to get more beer for Farmageddon. I mean, those boys and girls will be putting them down. I don't like it. I don't like rivalry games being played at neutral sites. I'm not a fan of it at all. I like obscure, intra-conference matchups. I thought it was cool Nebraska played Northwestern. I thought it was cool Florida State played Georgia Tech. I loved Navy taking on Notre Dame, a ton of history there, the rivalry. I thought those matchups, they were fun. They made sense. I don't like rivalry games at neutral sites.
It's a significant game to open up with Week 0.
It's a big game.
Absolutely.
But the fact that game, which means a lot to Manhattan and Ames, is going to Dublin, they must have both got a lot of money.
Yeah, because that's a Manhattan home game, and Bill Snyder would be rolling over in his grave if they did that when he coached, because he just didn't do that. The Tokyo thing was the closest they did then, and that's its own stories. But I'm with Matt. I don't like this going there, and neither did they. But they're expected to have a very good contingent of both fans just hopping on the old Conestoga wagon and going to Ireland.
Did you go to Ireland? Did you go to Dublin? Okay.
And I'm glad I didn't.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, everyone.
You were here.
Yeah.
Everyone who says that they went
a miserable Big Red Overreaction show.
I listened because you were with Damon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, these are going to be my new coworkers on Monday. Let's listen. Oh, God.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, really? You were the next day?
I started Monday. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was.
How many callers could you have?
I don't know, but I learned how to use the phones.
I don't know what the number was. It was just nonstop.
Yeah. I imagine.
Great way to kick off the season.
I mean, the thing about that game, it wasn't necessarily that. I mean, don't get me wrong. It was a big reason. They lost. The Big Red overreaction was that way, probably, obviously, because they lost. But the onside kick was just the cherry on top. That was the whole point of that game. It wasn't because they had lost plenty before that. It was just the manner in which they did it and the stupid decisions and just the absolute idiocy to while you're up.
We're on to 2025.
Mm-hmm. They didn't run out.
Happier times in 2025.
We're hoping.
Credit card machines.
Mike Eckler would never let that happen. He would never let you try an onside kick when you're up 11. Just saying. There was another thing in college football yesterday. So Nebraska went first on Saturday, talking about what they're going to do with their spring game. Steve Sarkisian spoke yesterday, and his makes a little bit more sense. He did not use the word tampering. Thank you. He used the word because they are going to adjust their spring game is because of their schedule, because they played late into the season.
Sure.
That they have some wear and tear on bodies, that they are going to adjust their spring schedule and they will adjust their game, and essentially they will not have a game. I have not seen what Notre Dame and Ohio State are going to do.
Say that.
Because I imagine, because Ohio State's spring ball begins, I think, in a month. Are they going to go through all 15 practices? Now, they have some other things going on. They got to hire a staff. They got to fill some holes on their staff. But Notre Dame and Ohio State played until essentially the end of January.
This is from no, you're absolutely right. End of January, wear and tear. So this is from the Columbus Dispatch. Sorry for interrupting there. Ohio State football coach Ryan Day says that they are expected to push back the start of spring practice this year. During an appearance on a podcast with Fox Sports with analyst Joel Klatt on Sunday, he said practices will begin during the second to last week of March through a spokesperson, which is the 10th to the 14th, which is about 2 weeks later than most recent years.
And I imagine there'll be a lot of guys that are on load management.
I mean, how can you really have spring football if you're either of those teams? Because they played 16 games. They played 16 games up to the national championship game, including the national championship game. And there's got to be so much wear and tear. Once you get to that, I mean, you get to the end of a 12-game season, everybody is hurt in some capacity. You get to 16 games, yeah. Those guys who have never played that amount of football, that intensity before in their entire lives, yeah, there's a lot of guys who are banged up, who are nursing ankles or knees or shoulders or wrists or whatever. I would not be surprised if practically half of Ohio State's 105-person roster is on some sort of laid-back, limited contact sort of.
We already know what you can do. Your spot is secured.
Yeah. I mean, they got plenty of guys on there. So, I mean, but it'll be interesting, though, with Ohio State because they have a quarterback battle and a quarterback situation that they actually have to figure out through the spring and fall. Which that sounds so exhausting. Like, I'm not going to, I know some people are going to be like, oh my God, like you're going to give sympathy to the millionaire coaches, who just won, who've been coaching in college football. But like, that's got to be really, really tough for both of those coaches, for Freeman and Day, to go immediately from being in the biggest game of your lives to then you got to start immediately weeks later, start thinking about next season and how you're going to be successful.
Welcome to Nick Saban's world.
I know.
He used to talk about that right away.
Well, Urban Meyer, like it was very, very famously, like when they won the first national championship in Florida, he was on the phone with recruits being like, we're going to do it again and trying to lock down and make sure that they still have talent. I mean, it's a job. You get paid a lot, but it's around the clock.
So this is all part of a discussion that's going on. And, there's no commissioner. Everybody just has a lot of ideas, but no solutions to fix college football. They have to work on the calendar. So today is National Letter of Intent Signing Day. I'm seeing like North Dakota, South Dakota State have guys that are signing. Nebraska's not having a press conference. There's nobody signing today. People that have signed have already been here. They're already on campus. They're already going through winter conditioning. So today is not the day where the media assemble and it's wall to wall. Heck, let's look at this. We have ESPNU, don't we?
No, that's classical music.
It's a banger.
Thank you. That's what.
We don't pay for that anymore.
Look at there, Matt. It's ESPNU.
ESPNU. And they're talking about Andy Reid.
Andy Reid.
Shocker. Okay. He's coming back.
That's how you know there's no buzz on the Super Bowl. They've thrown all the Super Bowl talk all the way to ESPNU.
But ESPNU used to carry, well, let's look at here. SEC Network.
Maybe. Unless the Feinbaum show's on.
True.
SEC Now.
Oh.
It's just a news and information show hosted by Peter Burns.
So there's no National Letter of Intent Signing Day for the big boys.
That's weird.
So that's already pushed back. We sign in December. The portal has its calendar. We have another portal window that's going to open up in April. We'll actually close before Nebraska has their spring game or their spring get-together. They have to figure out the calendar.
Spring barbecue.
And then there will be another the discussion about should you have a signing period in the middle of the summer? We're going already NFL light at what point do we start following the NFL model in college where you have OTAs, and instead of having like a spring football season where you have 15 practices that, you go from March to April, you wait until June and you have 15 practices in June, because that with the NFL expanding to 18 games and probably moving into Labor Day weekend, college football is going to have to embrace week 0. And they're probably going to move the season even, earlier.
It's good for us.
So the whole calendar around college football is going to change. And will that mean that spring football doesn't really exist? There's an element of spring football, but it begins maybe in May. And it's like the OTAs that you see now in NFL teams.
That's a great combo that you bring up, because it's funny. The buildup toward a college football season, now that I'm thinking about it, was longer than an NFL season. And then on top of that, they played less games. So, I mean, not too long ago, the last games of the year were being played on New Year's Eve, in that first week of January. And you had a whole month in between the last game of college football and the first game of the last game of the NFL. But at the beginning of the year, you have week 0, but then week 1 happens for college football, and then they're always just 1 week ahead of the NFL. So now you've cut down this gap massively, where now you're only 2.5 weeks removed from the last game of college football and it's only going to get worse, because in 2027, January 25th is going to be the national championship game. So that date is actually only going to move closer to being toward the NFL, right? And then you get less of a lead up with more games. It's going to be it's a whole disaster now. I mean, there used to be this major ramp up for college football to get these guys, because they're young people who are growing, who are still developing as athletes, as humans. Like, they needed that. There's still guys who are 18, 19 years old who are still growing, who still have growth plates and whatnot. Like, that was a part of the whole thing. Now you're playing more games with less of a lead up. I mean, it's something that they need to figure out, but it all comes down to, like, how much are you willing to manipulate the academic schedule in order to cater to football?
Well, I know academics is important, but the model of caring about academics is over.
It's done.
I mean, look at, I'll go to basketball real quick.
Go ahead.
So Leonard Hamilton, who in my previous life I got to know pretty well, because he had a couple of former assistants that I worked with. So I met Coach Ham, and great
coach.
guy. And now he's done at Florida State. He's retiring. What COVID did to their program, because they would have been a top seed in the year that COVID knocked them out. Like Florida State, Dayton, would have had a run, because they had great teams, with Florida State especially. So Florida State basketball hasn't been that same. But here's the problem with Leonard Hamilton, where the model that involves academics, Leonard Hamilton's big thing was to recruit guys, develop them, and make sure they graduate. Make sure they graduate is lower down on the list nowadays. You can't follow that model. So I know that the academic calendar has a place, but Rocco Spindler is showing up in Lincoln this weekend. Now, he's a graduate student, and so that's probably a little bit different.
Yeah.
But let's stop this farce of academics, okay? Just do your own thing. Follow the NFL calendar. Do your own calendar. And then they should follow the NFL model of training camp, OTAs, time off before you start real training camp. Just go all in on the NFL model. Because we're going there. We're going to have contracts.
Let's talk about academics. I'll admit this. At one point, I was a sophomore at the University of Nebraska. It was a really, really tough part of my life at that point, was going through some things, and I never really got all the way there. But I was thinking, like, all right, maybe I went to a school closer to home. Like, what if I transferred? What if I went to, somewhere closer? Because I was getting really homesick, and it ended up turning out real well and everything. And I love going to UNL, but like, that happened. And I didn't get too far down the rabbit hole, but I had other friends who transferred. The credit transferring from just as a regular academic student going from one university to the other is a pain in the ass. It is a pain to get your credits transferred from, because maybe they don't have that college. Maybe they don't have that class. Maybe they teach it a different way. Maybe it's just, so you have to end up maybe paying more, right, in order to like do those things. And you graduate later because of that, because of the whole transfer thing, because of the credits. You look at these players who are transferring to 3-4 different schools in 4 years. It is not about academics. I mean, those credits are not guaranteed to be transferred over. So you have guys who are, seniors, but like their academic standing are incredibly lower than that because they've been transferring to 4 different schools. I mean, the academics is completely thrown out of the window at that point. And so it's just what this all boils down to, Gary, is when is the NCAA finally going to man up and say, you know what? Okay, we're done. We're done trying to play around with the litigation. We're done trying to hold on to power. We're done trying to make this work under this umbrella. We're having a collective bargaining agreement. We're going to do contracts. We're going to do a salary cap. We're going to do training camp. We are literally going to just make this about the sport. And they just happen to be assigned to these schools.
I mean, unless you're UNK, they really have not done much.
No.
Which we haven't gotten into, but boy, they hammered.
They
wanted a piece of flesh with UNK. A couple of comments on the stream about the spring game. Let's see here. Captain says at Gary Sharp, if the spring game didn't exist, we would have never had Jack Hoffman. That is true. They will find a way to make that a cool day, but it will not involve the traditional game that you see. And that's essentially what Sarkisian said yesterday, is you will not see a traditional game. And you would think at Texas, big deal because you got Arch Manning playing quarterback.
Yeah.
Drake says the biggest part of seeing the spring game get altered or canceled is that it was so important for that the community connection aspect. You could show all these people something like that. Definitely something that you don't see anymore. They will find at a place like Nebraska where they made $1 million, but nowadays that's not a big deal. You can find a way to make up that $1 million somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it's not like, okay, we got to make sure that we get 60,000 people in here paying money because we got to, where's that $1 million? Where are we going to make that up? But they'll find a way, especially with kids, because that's a big deal to have kids involved. But I get why that's maybe the only time you come to Memorial Stadium. They'll find a way, but you have to understand. That's why I wish Rule would just said numbers. We can't deliver what people are used to. Don't say the word tampering. He needs to stop saying tampering. Say what kind of Sarkisian said, a little bit different because Texas played a lot longer, but we got some wear and tear. Just say numbers. People here, when they go to the spring game, they expect like 3 teams, and you have enough bodies for 3 teams. All you had to say was, we, in today's current state with 105 and guys coming and going, we don't have enough players to have a true game to deliver to the fans, but we're going to deliver you something else. If you would have said it that way, people are like, okay, I get it. We have to adjust. It just happened that spring games in college football got adjusted pretty quickly because 2 years ago we were talking about, boy, could Nebraska play Iowa State in a spring game? Could Nebraska play South Dakota State in a spring game? Now we're talking about Nebraska ain't playing Nebraska.
It just comes back down to Matt Rule thinking that he needs to be a mouthpiece for issues in the NCAA. I mean, that's what his tampering comments are about. He's got issues with how the NCAA does things in the current rules and how it's the wild, wild west, and he believes that it's incumbent upon him to voice those issues in those manners. I mean, there have been a lot of times where the comments that he says in a press conference, whether it be about other coaches, whether it be about other programs, whether it be about the current state of the game, that end up going on ESPN, that end up going on Fox. Heck, he got invited onto the Pat McAfee show strictly off of the comment of, a Porter quarterback is going for $3-4 million a year. He thinks it's he thinks it's his responsibility in order to voice those issues on the press conference, and that's his decision. But the funny thing is that you say, well, I wish Matt Rule would just say that. Well, Matt Rule can't. There's merit to that too. I don't think Latovsky's going to end up playing in spring football. Gunnar Gatula's got shoulder surgery. Turner Corcoran is still having surgery or still recovering from surgery. Teddy Prohaska is recovering from surgery. They are legitimately banged up on the offensive line. And you can also harken back to, hey, we had the spring game last year and we had 2 guys who we thought were going to be massive pieces of this team, Demetrius Bell and Bly Hill, and they both hurt themselves. And they were never the same when they came back. Mm-hmm. We don't want to risk that happening again. We don't have that margin for error. We don't have the numbers to do a spring game. We're not going to do it. It had nothing to do with him just saying it to say it. He could have said it, and it's the facts. It's a fact. They don't have numbers. They have a lot of injuries.
Andy says first they took the Big 8, then the Big 12, and now the spring game. Life sucks.
It's just a snowball effect.
And they took the importance of a 9-win season.
They took the importance of going to the Outback Bowl.
They took away that today should be a non-conference game in Seattle for Nebraska basketball. Instead, it's a conference game. Being played at 9:30 at night.
They took away
Nebraska should be in Manhattan. Or
they took away
Columbia.
Fiesta Bowl champion meaning something anymore.
Tostitos Fiesta Bowl champion.
They took away the joy of college football. When you go into a stadium on Saturday and you know the players. Now you don't know the players. You don't even know if there's a conference game or not. You don't even know who Houston Christian is.
You don't even know if this guy's going to be playing for you next week.
Mm-hmm.
The joy is gone. That's why we should have trades.
That would.
If we're going to follow what you were saying about academics, we could be open to trades.
Well, no, trades aren't a good thing according to Dennis Schroeder. According to Dennis Schroeder, trades are modern day slavery according to Dennis Schroeder.
Whoa.
What a crazy statement.
This just got dark quickly.
I know. Crazy statement.
John Walker will join us coming up in 30 minutes on 1620 The Zone. All right, now everybody is sad. People miss the 1 o'clock kickoffs.
Yeah.
They miss the old days of the Big Ten basketball on ESPN where they'd have a triple header on ESPN that began at 11 a.m. and Mike Gleason would be there to carry you through the day.
Big 12 FSN football.
I miss the clock stopping after a first down. I miss that a lot.
Shout out our friends at Phillips 66.
That was the beginning of the end, wasn't it? When they just started changing the rules and they were like, no, we're going to go full NFL rules. We're not going to be a unique game anymore. I'm being tongue in cheek.
I was actually for that.
I like that the rules. It had nothing to do with whether or not I really love that the clock stopped after first down. It just had to do with the fact that I liked that the rules were different. I liked that it was two different types of football because it just made it unique. You know, it's like I like that there was the give and take there. Now it's just one brand.
Couple of tweets here. So the next person to bring up tampering should be PJ Fleck. They have an offensive lineman who 2 years ago started 13 games, played in all 13 this past year. Martis Lewis, who is a guard who went into the portal yesterday. It's February 5th.
I was about to say.
So someone has gotten to him, and we will see where he ends up. But PJ Fleck, will he be the next to talk about tampering? All goes back to signing contracts. JD writes in, while we are going full NFL, can we please get rid of eligibility? Kids should be able to stay in college and play as long as they are a full-time student or until a coach cuts them.
Huh.
Yeah,
I could have stayed in college.
Now that 5-5, which was floated, about a month ago?
No, I think it's like 2 weeks ago. I think it's been shorter than that.
That is the NCAA. That's not on the books to be voted on or anything like that. Now the junior college thing is moving forward, but the 5-5, which could be a game changer for a lot of guys in college right now, that has not moved forward. We're going to get contracts. You need to sign at least a 1-year contract, and you are held to a contract. If you want to break the contract, there's a fee to be had here.
Sure.
It's going to be a whole new world when all this happens. And it's going to be even more so after what happened in Georgia yesterday. So, there is a new Georgia State Senate bill that would exempt NIL compensation received by college athletes from state income tax if passed. Seems to be a nice little recruiting tool.
Yeah.
When you are trying to recruit a Georgia player, in-state player, and you are going against him, and Georgia has no state income tax on the money you are getting.
Well, that might be a big deal too, because starting July 1st, all NIL donations that are $600 or over have to be approved, essentially. And so that's why you see a lot of teams that are like front-loading NIL money right now and spending a ton of money on the rosters currently because they don't have to go through that process until July. So they're just spending as much as they can so they don't because when you go through the approval process, it takes longer. The money doesn't get there as quicker. Like, you could lose a guy or something like that. Maybe if you're not a bigger school that has a consistent flow, you can't just call Mark Cuban and be like, hey, can you donate $15 million to our collective so we can get this nice big, quarterback from wherever? Thanks. Like, they're front loading a lot of that. But I wonder if with the income tax, does that have to get approved as well? Because it's NIL, but it goes right to them. Like, I guess you'd have to read the details of that bill, but I'd be curious if that applies to that waiting period.
Is this the SEC's response to losing 2 straight national championships to the Big Ten?
Absolutely.
Florida doesn't have any state income tax. Why doesn't Georgia just not have state income tax?
That might be, it's a great question.
But if you were, so let's bring this closer to home. So we have state income tax here. Sometimes we have some of the highest taxes. What if this was in Nebraska? The electorate wants an elite college football program, right? Why wouldn't this be popular if this was in Nebraska?
So the population.
Governor played there. He gets it.
Let's do some math here.
What this all says is the playing field in college sports. There's some issues here.
Oh, it's way too important.
Might be broken beyond repair, but this is kind of fun.
Isn't it funny though how serious this is? Like how much college football means to people. The fact that people are willing to change literal state litigation and taxes in order to give their college football team the best advantage they possibly can.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how crazy that is?
Yeah, I'm a little bit sarcastic, but let's be honest. Electorates are kind of stupid when it comes to big time college football at their alma mater. They would rather vote against their self-interests if it means that the program can recruit a 4-star receiver from Texas and let him drive 100 miles an hour and do whatever he wants to do, but he's going to help you win a championship. I mean, I imagine that this will not go over in Georgia. There will be at least some sane people that will be like,
What if you're a Tech fan?
Huh?
Like, I don't want to pay for Bulldog players. Wouldn't that be funny if when you get like your tax form, you're like, there's a little box that you can mark that sends off like an extra 0.8% that goes directly to the Bulldog NIL. Like, there's 4 different boxes here. Check here if you want to donate to the Lopers. Check here if you want to donate to Creighton. Check here if you want to donate to Nebraska.
It's probably not that far-fetched that someday that's going to be a case.
It might be. Check all 3. There's 2.4% extra of your income going straight to the.
I would love to see how they're going to try and pass this.
I cannot wait. Cannot wait. Do they get? So would it be a public hearing? Would that be like a public hearing that would happen?
In the state of Georgia involving taxes, I imagine it would have to be.
Just, you have people who don't give a crap about football coming up to the hearing being like, why are we doing this?
But what if Kirby Smart says, you know what, this is what we're up against in Florida because they don't have state income tax?
They say, works for me, coach.
Hey, you the electorate, you want another natty? This is the way to do it.
Done.
You have like a librarian come up to the stand who he's never watched get down to football in their life. And they're like, why would I do this? And then right after that person, you have someone just painted in red and black. They got the Road Warriors, football pads on. They're like,
recognize cornbread from Athens.
Got to do it for our dogs, the dogs.
All right. You have somebody at the hearing. They get down on all fours and they start barking.
Hunker down. Sick.
This, as we are, what are we going into year 3, year 4 of NIL?
That's
in the middle of the summer.
I have no clue. I don't know when you can really say it started. Probably year 4.
COVID ended. I don't know.
But all of this and all the discussion that has since ensued, to be honest, in college athletics was more innocent and colorful when we had bagmen, when we had relatives who hired you to do no-show jobs, and you had cars that were loaned out at no charge by the dealership for years at a time. That actually, we can control that. That was actually more innocent, I think, than what is going on now.
You would be able to answer this question better than I am. You think like in 2004, they said, all right, guys, hey, we're done giving Reggie Bush's family a house. We're done sliding money under the table to Lendell White. Vince Young can't go from living here to living like why Vince Young's family, all of a sudden their net worth has literally gone up times 20. Like, we can't keep doing this. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to give each player on a team $30,000. If you're on the team, other than your scholarship, you get $30,000 if you're a scholarship player. And hey, by the way, you get to do local commercials, not national commercials. You do local commercials, right? You get to do a car dealership. You get to do Amigos. You get to do HVAC. If they did that in 2004, do you think we would have eventually gotten to the point where we are now? Or do you think it would have been like college football would just be way closer to college football, or to the college football that we knew? Or do you think no matter what this was coming, no matter what, it was always going to be the wild, wild west, that there was no way to stop this lunacy and craziness from happening, where it's every week we have a different...
Well, I think once you started, there were no guardrails.
Yeah.
So we could all kind of see this coming.
Sure.
Maybe not to this extent. And now we're trying to reel it back in. And now you're going to have revenue sharing and salary caps.
Well, did you see the other lawsuit out of Wisconsin where one of their DBs is suing the NCAA saying that his D2 years don't count as taken eligibility, which would then add a whole other... So no eligibility counts anywhere. I mean, that would just absolutely... At that point, that email that you read, like, hey, at this point, just stop, just let him play as long as they can. Just at that point, make a separate league. Just make it a league. Hey, don't even call it college football anymore. Just say, this is the league. the best prep players from the ages of 18 to 22 come and play here. Once you get to 24, you're gone. The idea is that they're going to play for a team and then they'll end up going to the NFL. At that point, if there's just no rules on eligibility, screw college. College is just out of it. It's just separate at that point.
They should have majors that are you major in your sport.
Yeah. I don't really think that that's that bad of an idea.
I brought up that idea about 6 years ago. I got scorned.
I don't think that's a terrible idea
who
at
gets
all.
the last laugh then?
Now, what I think
Cardell Jones and yours truly.
I think what would be a good idea is have them major in a sport, and then for the next X amount of years, just have them take all the gen eds that they would have to take. And then if they don't end up going to the NFL, they can come back and say, all right, well, you just have 2 years of school left to just find a major and do all the major classes, and then we'll give you a degree. You can definitely do that, depending on, the major you want. I don't think you can really do that if you want to be a doctor. I think that'll be a little bit different.
Justin says this idea that was proposed in Georgia, he said, you bring it up in Nebraska and you may be being sarcastic. He goes, but think about it. This actually could have some run if it was ever proposed in Nebraska. I don't know. I think in this state, I know that program is important. I don't think enough people down there in the unicameral will be like, you know what? This sounds like a great idea to benefit Nebraska is that they will be exempt from state income tax. Now, if you want to talk about getting rid of the state income tax in Nebraska, I'd be all for it.
Oh, sure.
It makes a big difference. If you ever live in Florida, it makes a huge difference on the old pay stub. You live in the state of Texas? I know why Georgia's doing this. I mean, this is all about recruiting, like advantages.
Because they can't do it under the table anymore.
I mean, look at what you could say to a kid, okay? You could say to a kid, hey, we're going to give you X amount of money, and you're not going to have to pay state income tax on it. Because so I know this from somebody I talked to about that is in the NIL world that is an athlete, and their first tax form, they were like, whoa.
Sure.
And unfortunately they are at an institution where they educate them. So it wasn't like a surprise, but they told me that they were like, whoa, that's a big number there. I've not seen that number before in my lifetime. But if you are Georgia and you already, Florida doesn't have state income tax, but let's say you're going against Alabama, you're going against Ohio.
Yeah.
And you have that as another element to say, hey, you're going to be compensated for being a dog, but there's also one other thing. You go to Ohio State up there and be a Buckeye. They're going to take some money out of that NIL. It's not straight, we're giving you $300K. Hey, here, we're giving you straight $300K. You don't have to worry about any state income tax.
You do that little thing with the quarters. You put 10 quarters out in front of out of a recruit. Here's your 10 quarters if you went to Georgia. Here's your 10 quarters if you went to Ohio. If you went to Ohio, we got to take away 3 of these quarters, We don't have to take away 3 of these quarters if we go to Georgia.
And it also comes back, there's this idea, which again, I don't think will pass. There's no uniformity in college athletics, like across the board from state to state. When this first started, states had different rules. There's everybody is playing on the same playground. And college football has never had parity. Nobody's ever been like, oh, everybody is together. I mean, hell, we have one conference that plays 8 conference games, another plays 9 conference games, and they're the 2 most powerful conferences going. But stuff like this, it makes it even harder.
Oh, 1,000,000%.
And we're not gonna fix this anytime soon. So I can see why, hey, I want to get the best advantage. That's why when I hear tampering, you know what? You're tampering. If you're not tampering, what are you doing? You know what? Your conversation about tampering needs to be enforcement. Who do we find that can enforce it?
Well, every conversation will always come down to this sentence. Nothing is going to change until they get a collective bargaining agreement and they get a commissioner. And they just put it all under one roof and say, here's what we're doing. Here are the rules. Here's the cap. Here's the contracts. Here's this. Here's that. Until that happens, you will not get any sort of uniformity or anything sort of like that. I mean, that's just case in point. And so it's just every week though, Gary, every week, just something different happens every day. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen. It's like you're turning your head or you get a notification. You're like, they're doing what now? This is happening. JUCO doesn't count anymore. Wait, D2 may not count anymore. Wait, if they're going to do 5 years of eligibility. Wait, state income tax can get waived now for these players.
So this is so there's more to this story. The person in Georgia that introduced this bill sat down with Nick Saban to try and form this. Missouri passed. I do know this because Winery got a big deal. And I think it's the Winery law, isn't it?
I can look that up, but
I know it's not. So this is labeled the Kirby Smart law. It may not be the Winery law, but Missouri in 2023 passed an NIL law after they were losing recruits to schools like Texas and Texas A&M that didn't pay state income tax. So they approved in 2023 to allow in-state athletes to make money from endorsement deals in high school if they sign with public universities in that state. That is straight off the Winery.
Yeah.
Because he was from Kansas City and to keep him in state. So it also benefits, i.e. Cantwell.
Oh.
Who's an in-state product that can make money in high school right now as long as he goes to a public university.
That's a great point. Yeah, the law allows high school athletes to earn NIL compensation after signing with an in-state public university. Yeah, so they can just give him all that money up front right away for him to have as opposed to him waiting for that check to hit the bank.
This legislator says, listen, recruiting is a very, very competitive sport. When you're recruiting these five-star athletes, they'll have agents, and we're competing with Tennessee, Texas, and Florida who have no state income tax. Eventually, we'll get there, and we won't have a state income tax. I hope that happens. But until then, we've got to get Kirby and these football coaches and basketball coaches, those coaches with a tool in their toolbox to be able to compete. What do you think? You think this guy has season tickets to Georgia?
I think they're going to put him in a damn box now after this. I mean, do you think they maybe bribed him with that? Like, hey, dude, we got this idea. How about you pitch this to your legislature, and you can get this passed, and you can lobby for it. We got 4 sideline tickets for you for the rest of your life. How about that?
It's actually called the Kirby Smart Bill.
Really? The Smart Bill.
That's a flex. You got your own bill.
It's a smart decision.
I could the one because this has been bandied about down in Lincoln, but it hasn't gotten like super traction. We got some other things to work on in the state, but the ability to get NIL for a high school kid as long as he stays in state, I think does make sense.
Oh yeah, I do think there's a benefit to that, and I think that if Missouri's doing it, it comes down to one of those things though, where I think that states are always nervous about things like that things get passed in that nature, because then they know that they're going to have to adjust to it, or they're going to have people who want them to adjust to it. I guarantee you there are states surrounding Georgia. Now, there are states who look at this bill and say, absolutely not. We will never do that. That will never occur. That will never get up to the floor. But I'm sure there are other states who are like, shoot, if this gets passed, this is something that could happen here too.
I wonder if, I mean, who knows what an agreement was, but did Winery have to give back money?
I would not.
When he left Mizzou?
I would not. I wouldn't know. I mean, it's all in the contract, right? I mean, if it's written into his contract, but I don't know if there's really like with these.
Was there a contract? It was a handshake deal.
I have no clue.
That's why we need contracts.
Exactly.
John Walker's coming up at 9. Creighton at Providence tonight. A little bit later, Nebraska and Washington. So double dose of hoops on a hump day on 1620 The Zone. There's another Jurassic Park movie.
Like Fast and the Furious.
So Jurassic World Rebirth, the trailer just got released. It'll be in theaters July 2nd.
Never been a Jurassic Park guy. Never interest me. Did you like?
I watched the first one.
Yeah.
Shout out dinosaurs.
Everyone after that seems like the same storyline that you're on a theme park ride.
Yeah, it's the same thing every time. Hey, dinosaurs are extinct. Guess what? They're not anymore. Hey, you get to look at them. Oh no, dinosaur escapes. Oh no, people die. Oh no, there's a bigger power that's controlling this that is really, really bad, and we have to stop the bigger power.
And here comes Jeff
Done.
Goldblum.
Roll the credits. That's literally every single Jurassic Park movie. Oh no, creature known for being aggressive all of a sudden becomes aggressive, and now we have to stop.
Commits to Ohio State.
How can we fit as many product placement advertisements in this movie as possible? Oh, here you go, Chris Pratt. Just in between your line, drink this Coca-Cola as obvious as you possibly can.
So he's not in Lincoln.
This movie has like Mission Impossible vibe to it.
Does the dinosaur like drop from the ceiling and like try not to hit the laser? Or
the trailer looks actually pretty good, but the trailer might be better than the movie. Which is, I'm not in the filmmaking business. They say that's not good.
What? When it comes out,
the trailer is better than the actual movie.
Well, yeah. See, the thing is about the filmmaking business right now, we are in a rough time in movies. This is when all the bad movies come out.
Sit next to Spielberg or what?
This is when the bad movies come out, like January, February, March. Like these are no good movies are coming out. Like whenever you see, like,
okay, Scorsese.
I'm just saying that on movies.
I'm just saying when movies come out and you're like, oh, it comes out in March. That's not a good. Oh, this comes out in February. That's not a good sign. They are burying it. They don't want to release this movie, but they put way too much money into it. So they're going to advertise it so you get interested enough to go to the first screening, and then you realize it's a terrible movie, and then you're like, well, I'll never go again. But now they made their money back. That's how it happens.
So July 2nd. So this is supposed to be a summer blockbuster.
Is this 2025?
As of right now, it is, yes.
Yeah.
Is it still with Chris Pratt? Or is it new?
Like a new person? Well, who do you say? Timothy Chalamet?
No, he's not in this.
He's in everything. I got to watch the Dune movies, though.
I'm just going through the trailer here. I've not seen him yet.
Fair enough. I don't care. Yeah. I've never been in the Jurassic Park. I'm a Star Wars and Fast and Furious guy when it comes to series.
John Walker's going to join us in a little bit.
Fantastic Four. Jimmy in the chat, in the YouTube chat. Good call. Fantastic Four. You like superhero movies?
I wish. I'm not opposed.
Yeah.
I just they're not high up on my list.
I'm
way behind.
The dinosaurs return for the NIL.
I'm way behind. You know what? The best thing that happened to me was COVID. I caught up on a lot of movies and stuff.
Same.
Because there was no live sports.
Sure.
I just enjoy watching live sports. So I need downtime where there's no sports.
Yeah. It got your pop culture up.
And
basically.
I'm going to be in trouble because once baseball starts, it's daily. And so I'm always watching a baseball game at night.
Sounds fun.
All right, July 2nd, get your tickets now. Also, UNK just announced their recruiting class. Davon Hall is transferring from Nebraska to UNK. Seems to be a good spot for him. Hopefully he can go out there and ball out under Ryan Held. All right, last hour's upcoming. John Walker joins us next. His thoughts on Creighton Providence and where the Big East is, about a little over halfway home after St. John's beat Marquette last night. Don't forget, Marquette, Creighton, Saturday at the Chai. But first up, the Mob in Providence on 1620 Zone. All right, here on the Zone later today, Creighton is on the road trying to make it 8 in a row. They're at Providence, 7:30 tip-off. John Walker will have all the coverage on the Omaha World Herald. He joins us now. Good morning, John.
Morning. How are you guys?
Good. Sorry, my voice is under the weather here. But too much singing in the shower. Last night, St. John's Marquette, that was old Big East style basketball. It harkened back to the days of Mullen, Berry, Jackson. MSG was roaring. How is St. John's doing this? They're 11-1. They can't make 3-point shots. They can't make free throws. They have a bunch of really, really talented players. They're 11-1. They've won 20 games again under Pitino.
It is astonishing, really, what he has taken that program from and led it to in not even full 2 seasons. And they're just doing it by playing, I think, as you said, pure old school Big East basketball. They're not going to take a lot of threes. And maybe more importantly, they're not going to make a lot of threes. Or at least they haven't so far. And they've just bullied teams on the glass. They've bullied them defensively with their physicality. And they just live in those gritty, messy, grinded out games that force teams to usually find a different way to win than they usually do. And that physicality ramped up last night, as it always does, and they get Cam Jones in early foul trouble, and, kind of away you go. If you can get, a Big East Player of the Year candidate into foul trouble early and have him sit the bench, that's usually going to be a recipe for success. And they were able to do that to Cam Jones, and then they were able to weather Marquette down the stretch with a lot of help from a rockin' MSG.
John, Marquette is 3-3 in their last 6. UConn is 2-3 in their last 5, and they nearly lost to Butler in overtime. Creighton plays Providence today, but then over the next couple of days, they will take on the gauntlet of St. John's, Marquette, and UConn. Is it safe to say that the Blue Jays are catching Marquette and UConn kind of at the right time in terms of for them, because they haven't been playing their best basketball as of late?
Well, it's interesting because you kind of always knew this was going to happen, or at least could happen. Creighton played, I think, the 4th hardest schedule through the first half of league play. Mm-hmm. And in UConn, Marquette, and St. John's had all yet to play each other. And so when you're sitting there at the midway point of Big East play, and you're like, okay, Creighton is, 3rd. They have the tiebreaker over UConn, and UConn's dropped the game, and now they're chasing St. John's and Marquette. Well, we saw last night, those teams still have to play each other. And so that the top of the Big East is going to sort itself out over the next, let's say, 3 weeks. I think not this weekend. I think by the end of next week, we will have a really, really, really good idea where the Big East stands with, 3+ weeks left in the regular season, which is nuts to say at this point. Yeah. But no, it's interesting because I don't know if you'd want to face Marquette off of back-to-back losses.
Sure.
They don't want to come to Omaha and lose. Mm-hmm. And it's super hard to come to Omaha and win, but they did it a couple of years ago. So I don't know. See, in a vacuum, probably not. I wouldn't want to play Marquette off of back-to-back losses because they're going to want to win that much more.
Sure.
But take a step back and look at it big picture. Yeah, it probably is the right time to catch these teams because you knew that there was a chance they were always going to be on a slide right around this time of year.
So one of the things, and I'd still have a high regard for Marquette, but there's something about Cam Jones, John. Like if I look at his non-con, he was an elite player, and I know they desperately lack a big time post or a great point guard, and they run these. It seems like now that I'm watching Marquette more of late, they run offensive sets and then they forget about Cam Jones. They're at the end of the shot clock and they have to take a wild shot. where is Cam Jones? Because we're going to see him firsthand on Saturday. Where is Cam Jones in comparison to where Marquette needs him to be, to where Marquette needs to be, still highly thought of as probably the top team on a line in the NCAA brackets right now?
Yeah, I think the non-con, like they lost. Now, they've had a lot of continuity over the last 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I think they've had 7 different starters over the past 3 seasons. What? Like, no team in the country is able to do that in today's era. But those 2 that they don't have are now 2 NBA players, Tyler Kolek and Oso Ighodaro. And so I think non-con teams were still trying to figure them out a little bit. Obviously, they were still trying to figure themselves out. But a lot of teams, as you guys know, those non-con teams don't know you nearly as well as, your conference teams will. And so it's a good way to figure things out. And Marquette was able to do it because they just smothered people on defense. And then Cam Jones was right up there with Eric Dixon in terms of scoring. And so they were able to kind of get by in non-con. Well, now you're playing teams that know, hey, Shaka loves to do this because he did it last year and he did it the year before, actually. And we know that when they don't have this type of player, that they're going to try and do this. And so it's tougher to, I don't want to say sneak things by, but it's tougher to get by with certain things in Big East play. It kind of reminds where Marquette is right now in terms of getting Cam Jones going. It kind of sort of feels like what Creighton went through in that stretch of like Nebraska, San Diego State, Texas A&M, where they just like physically could not get the ball to Ryan Kalkbrenner. And it kind of feels like that's the point that Marquette is at with Cam Jones. Because, teams have just plastered them. And they said, okay, Ben Gold beat us. Stevie Mitchell beat us. And they haven't so far. So we'll see if that changes Saturday. But yeah, it's a really odd spot because I really do see a lot of similarities. Obviously, Cam Jones and Ryan Kalkbrenner, not the same player.
Yeah.
That's not the comparison I'm making. But just situationally, it reminds me a lot of what Creighton went through in mid/late November.
John, Creighton plays Providence tonight on the road. Now, the last time these 2 teams locked up, it was a 20-point victory for the Blue Jays. And one guy who stood out greatly in that was Isaac Trout. Before that game, John, he had 2 double-digit point efforts all year. Since that game, he's had 4. What have you seen differently from Trout coming off of the bench and being this massive spark plug for Creighton?
I'm probably going to oversimplify it because I really think it's that simple. The rotation cut down, like roles were defined.
Yeah.
And think about the beginning of the year. The big question was, hey, what does Greg McDermott do with the group of, at the time we had no clue, Jackson McAndrew, Jason Green, Mason Miller, Isaac Trout. We were like, okay, it's odd. It's interesting to have these 4 wings here. They're all a little bit different. None of them are probably the total package, but they all do something different. Well, now those roles are defined. These guys aren't saying, hey, I'm going to get in for 10 minutes and I'm scared to put up a shot because I could be yanked for the guy behind me. And so it's tough to establish a rhythm like that. Well, now they know their roles. They know kind of how many minutes they're going to have depending on the matchup every night. It really just allows them to be more comfortable. And I think Isaac saw some fall in that game against Providence, and kind of away he went. And that's it. I think it was just simply him settling into his role and then having confidence from from that second half against Providence. I don't know, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah. We went 4 for 4 in that second half alone to get 13 points. It's crazy.
What do you, like watching Saturday? So Providence goes into MSG, and there's a little rivalry there, and they take them all. I mean, if Richmond doesn't hit a late shot, we might be talking about an upset. And I'm thinking, who is Providence? So they're 500. They're 5-6 in the league. They're a different animal when they play at home, and we saw what they were like here, where I thought there were times where it was like, well, we know what's going to happen, and they weren't totally motivated, and they got blown out. What do you expect tonight in this game? Because I look at the line and it's short. It's 3.5. Another road game for Creighton. Try to win 8 in a row. They got Marquette coming up on Saturday. How do you think tonight's game unfolds at the place formerly known as the Dunk?
The Dunk, yeah, no, it should be a good one. If history tells us, literally anything, then it would suggest that tonight is going to be a good one. Here's a fun fact for you guys. This is over in the story that I put out today. The last time, I'll give you 2 different nuggets here for 2 different crowds. The last time Creighton won at Providence, Joe Biden had not been sworn into his presidential term. And for the other half of the crowd that's listening, the last time Creighton had won at Providence, Patrick Mahomes had only been to 1 Super Bowl.
Damn.
So all of that to say, it's been a while. A full presidential term has came and went, and Patrick Mahomes is now going for a 3-peat. And so it's going to be tough. It's a really tough place to play, obviously. But this is also, something I said in my story. Providence is not the same team on the road that it is at home for whatever reason. For whatever reason, road wins in the Big East are not easy to come by, and they're certainly not easy to come by at the Dunk. So I think it'll probably play out a lot how that first half did a few weeks ago. They're going to try and get Bensley Joseph and Wesley Cardet and Jaden Pierre. They're going to try and get those guys going. Well, Bensley Joseph and Jaden Pierre, they're Providence's top 2 leading scorers, other than Bryce Hopkins. Obviously, he's done for the year.
Yeah.
But those 2 are Providence's top 2 leading scorers, and they were held to a combined 9 points on 19 shots in that first game.
Wow.
And so I really think the key is defense for Creighton. I think tonight will play out a lot how that first half did. Because it was not close, but it was not the 20-point game it ended up being until Isaac Prout caught fire in the second half. Does he have another one of those tonight? I'm not sure. Obviously, in that environment, it'll be really tough to. In Providence, will be juiced. They'll be rocking. I mean, they're sitting at 500 right now, like 5-6 in Big East play. There's like a cluster right in the middle of the Big East that is like all 5-6 in league play, and they can kind of jump to the top of that pack, right with Xavier, I think, with a win tonight. So I'm not saying Providence is going to make the tournament or anything, but in some way they have something to play for, and again they'll be at home. So that's what I think will happen. I think Creighton will try and establish Ryan Kalkbrenner. Have to, and they're gonna try and put the clamps on Bensley Joseph and Wesley Cardet and say, okay, and Jaden Pierre, and say, okay, well, everyone else can beat us, but you guys are not going to beat us. And Creighton has done a really good job of that this year in matchups, and that's probably what they'll do again tonight.
So they've won 7 in a row, which includes a win over ranked UConn, but they aren't ranked in the top 25 as of right now. And I think, they're suffering greatly from their non-con losses earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Bracket Matrix, who updated their stuff today, has them at an 8 seed. Let's just say this. Let's say everything goes perfectly. They beat Providence. They go 2-1, maybe even 3-0 in this big 3-game slate they're going to have against Marquette, UConn, St. John's. John, what do you think the ceiling is for this team in terms of seeding? Can this team get up to a 3 or 4 seed, or is the damage kind of been done and maybe they, from that, lackluster non-con?
Yeah, I don't know if they. Man, I guess there's a world where they could. Yeah, if they let's say they win tonight at Providence for the first time since January 2021, and let's say that they beat Marquette on Saturday, and then they bounce back and run UConn in Omaha in a repeat of last year, right?
Yeah.
Well, then next Sunday at the Garden is for first place in the Big East. That's a huge game. It will be a huge game regardless. So if they ran the gauntlet, man, maybe you get up to a 4 or 5, but I do not think there's any world in which they would end up at 3 because of the non-con.
Okay.
But it's going to be super tough, and not to diminish the win streak, but also wins over Butler, wins over Providence, wins over DePaul and Seton Hall are not needle movers at all. They've taken care of business against teams that they've absolutely needed to take care of business against. And then, they beat St. John's at home. They swept Villanova. Those are the games where, okay, now you're winning games that keep you atop the Big East, that keep you in that hunt. And, nobody's going to look at a resume and say, oh man, they beat DePaul by 24. Who didn't? You know what I mean?
Totally got you. Totally got you.
Yeah, and hey, they beat Seton Hall by 24.
Yeah.
Who didn't?
Yeah.
So those for me at least are not needle movers in terms of seeding, and I think we've probably seen that in a lot of the bracketology. There's still, even though they've won 7 in a row and 9 of 10, they're still sitting on that 8 seed line, even in some. So. But it's going to be super tough to jump anything more than that because, again, love it, hate it, they take the whole resume into consideration.
They do. John, we look forward to your coverage tonight. As always, appreciate our weekly chat, my friend.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, John.
John Walker, 7:30 tonight.
What a stud.
At Providence.
Love getting Johnny on.
They have not won in a while.
No, they haven't.
Right.
Reminds me of some other rivalry streaks and whatnot, but 4 years, man, that's crazy.
We'll touch on Nebraska, Washington, because they play right after, not in the same place.
No,
they play right after. So 7:30, 9:30, get a grandpa nap in today because you're gonna have to stay up late. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but the community that stays up late for late Nebraska basketball games, like if you go back to Hawaii, is quite a community. We all have a bond. It's we're all watching one thing. Collectively on X, you're watching the same thing. So stay up late tonight.
If there was ever a thing about holding hands on Twitter, that's the late crowd for Nebraska basketball. It's just a great community singing Kumbaya.
Just, I remember in Hawaii. Hawaii was fun. People were making funny memes. They were wondering, is only on Gilligan's Island do batteries last that long? Have you ever thought about that, Jimmy? Have you ever woke up one day and you've watched Gilligan's Island and you're like, how did the batteries in the radio last that long?
Oh, yeah. I have a lot of these random
thoughts. And do batteries only last long if you're on a deserted island?
These are all great questions.
Those are things that come up late at night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll throw that into Husker Twitter tonight in the middle of a game.
Watch a little Golden Girls after
Huskers
take on Washington.
Yeah. All out on the lanai with some cheesecake.
Oh.
Brandon Vogel coming up in about 20 minutes on 1620 The Zone. Hey, so there's a YouTube channel that answers the question about Gilligan's Island and the batteries. How they kept the batteries in the radio charged on a deserted island.
I like how there needs to be an answer for everything.
There does.
So I guess there is some science behind it. I'm searching here. Gilligan's Island was on Me TV yesterday. Like I was scrolling through and I hadn't seen Gilligan's Island in a while.
You can't turn away when you stumble.
It's not for like a minute. I think I've seen them all, but they were doing one where they were listening to the radio. And by the way, the voice, John Facenda.
Nice.
John Facenda, who most notably NFL films and especially around the Super Bowl, was the voice on the radio. But I was thinking, how do they keep the batteries charged? But there's a science behind it, and now there's a YouTube channel.
There were, I love the people who, during the peak of Marvel, they would watch Marvel movies, and they would be like, they would try and make things make sense. They'd be like, when the Black Panther got thrown off the top of a waterfall, if you fall 300 feet in real life, you're dead when you hit the water. It might as well be concrete. Guys, it's a made up world. It's a made up country. They literally go to space in half these movies, okay? No one is really doing the math of how far does T'Challa have to fall off the waterfall in order for him to survive for the story to make sense?
It just does. That's how he gets down.
We're talking about a superhero movie. Gilligan's Island a little bit different. What's the technology, though? What's the science behind it?
Oh, I got to scroll through here. Ed says, also, can you find out when they stuck wires in the empty coconut halves with seawater and stir, where they had an episode? Yes,
they should have just built an all-inclusive.
Doesn't mean TV. Don't they just run marathons of Brady Bunch, Happy Days, Gilligan's Island?
Yeah, the good stuff.
Golden Girls. And then sometimes they'll have the game shows on there too. They'll have Password.
Password Plus, yeah.
Yeah.
Was Gilligan's Island TV's original Survivor?
No.
Mm-hmm.
No. TV's original Survivor was Survivor.
Well, people are wondering.
People are asking.
The original White Lotus?
I watched one Gilligan's Island episode. And it's where the captain, who's this very respectable leader and man, gets hit on the head really, really hard and becomes a lusting individual. And they have to they're like, Captain, you're not like this, Captain.
Put him in the protocol.
And then he hits his head again and then he becomes the captain.
So I can't believe this is a real discussion, but
I'm enjoying
they
this.
are having, are they dry cell or wet cell batteries?
Jeez.
Years ago, doorbells to houses ran on 12-inch tall dry chemical batteries purchased in any hardware store. These batteries would last for years. If you only listen to the radio at key news hours, a dry cell battery might last a very long time.
Is this Reddit? Because no way this is not
No, this
Reddit.
is on the YouTube channel.
This is on the YouTube channel.
If it's on the internet, it's true.
I love how there's people out there who watch those types of shows like that, and we all think the same thing. We know this is a Hollywood actor-derived script where we're watching make-believe stuff, and yet congruently people go, wonder how that radio stays on for so long. I wonder if that's, canonical. I wonder if that's real. Can a radio really stay on that long in a deserted island?
Bob says, thanks for bringing up Gilligan's Island. He goes, love the show. But as I've gotten older, I wonder about a couple of things. One,
oh, Lord.
If they're within radio range, why haven't they been found?
Mm-hmm.
Two, if they went out for a 3-hour tour, that's 1.5 hours each way. How far out, assuming they went straight ahead, could they have gone at, say, 5 to 10 knots per hour?
Knots.
I know. Then there wouldn't be a show. I'm just saying any help you can give to these questions would be much obliged. These are valid questions that back in the day when your mom and dad were watching Gilligan's Island, they didn't even think about. But now later in life, we're like, there's something fishy about this.
I don't know if that actually happened. It didn't happen. It was a TV show, guys. It was made for entertainment. That's funny.
And you're just bursting balloons left and right.
5 to 10 knots is a wild, what is a knot?
Don.
There is more.
Oh, there you go.
He said, and another thing.
Yeah, while you're at it.
Why did Mrs. Howland Ginger bring so many wardrobe changes for a 3-hour tour?
They gotta look hot. I don't know.
He said, you guys also are radio guys. He must be a diehard Gilligan's Island
He's
fan.
got to be, right?
He goes, I didn't think you could get reception in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, where's the closest tower to the island that they're stranded from? Like,
I don't know. I can't hear our station at my house.
I was about to say, like, that's one strong
Did
tower.
our listener just expose that Gilligan's Island was not real?
I think he did. This is like when you find out that WWE isn't,
He's just firing off emails because now he says
he's getting fired up.
How come their clothes were always clean?
That's a great point. In Lost,
where's the washing machine?
Clean.
Where's the washing machine in Gilligan's Island? You know, actually, if you wash your clothes in salt water, that it actually wrinkles up and it gets dirtier as opposed to it getting cleaner. I don't think that's true at all. I kind of just said that, but that's the type of slant we're on right now.
He goes, "Thank you for listening to my rant. It was a comedy without sex or profanity, so I appreciated it."
Those are like the big two.
Back in the day, though.
So you would only go see a comedian that did not have sex or profanity in their stand-up?
Was I Love Lucy didn't have profanity.
No, not in the 50s.
And
they couldn't even sleep in the same bed.
I was about to say, they didn't sleep in the same bed. So there's another show without
neither did my great-grandparents.
Sex or profanity. I don't know how much profanity is in the, I don't know how much, trying to think of our shows here.
Rachel asks, how did Marianne's makeup last that long? Cheddar's Cheetah says, nautical mile, I believe, 20.1 miles they sailed away. Kellyanne says they built a washing machine. It was powered by a bike.
Look at that. It's great.
They might have been ahead of their time, but they also might have been fooling us.
Hashtag exposed.
Jimmy, you would know this.
Probably.
You're the morbid part of the show.
Thank you.
Is anybody from the cast still alive?
I think they're all dead.
It was Bob Denver the last. He was Gilligan.
Yeah. Bob, much like John, both dead.
You think they died on the island, or did they?
No, Bob Denver went on and he made some appearances, like some sitcom appearances.
Yeah, that's the other island show.
So they all got out of.
The trick was on Gilligan's Island, they were all dead already. That was the point. They were in the afterlife.
John emails into the Equitable Bank.
I might have mixed up my island shows here.
No. They were not in the afterlife.
No, that was the wrong. That was Lost.
Okay.
John emails into the Equitable Bank inbox. 1 knot is 0.8689 miles per hour. There you go. You learn something new every day. We're an educational program.
We are.
What a knot is and what frivolity means. Frivolity.
Thank you.
You never gave me a country of origin.
People care a lot about Gilligan's Island, according to
the
Equitable
chat
Bank.
is blowing up right now.
It was always on TBS.
Did you know what you started when you brought up Gilligan's Island?
Did people have these questions when it was airing? These are very valid questions.
They didn't have an outlet to share them with.
We should bring in like a former. Well, I was gonna say we should bring in a former producer of Gilligan's Island, but unless they were like 17 when they
or 7.
In
fact, let's ask the old Googles. Anybody from Gilligan's Island
still alive? We can ask them. Like, did people like type in? Did people mail a letter to the show and ask these questions?
Oh, there's still somebody alive. Congratulations to Tina Louise, who you knew as Ginger.
Ginger's still alive.
She's 247 years old.
How old is she actually?
Oh, look, hold on. Anticipating questions. Oh, she's 90 years young.
Okay.
She celebrates her birthday 6 days from today.
We should get her on. Can we get her on?
We should.
Can we get her on tomorrow?
Will she be at the Chiefs parade next Tuesday?
That's a great question. Is she from Kansas
it's her
City?
Birthday. No.
Where's she from?
Somewhere else. Oh, New York City.
There you go. Bright lights.
Gene says, I went to a show over in Council Bluffs way back in the day, and the guy that was the skipper would go to conventions dressed like the skipper and meet fans.
Yeah, that sounds like a Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore. That guy has just not gotten over that role. I mean, he's milked the crap.
Well, it's going to be even more
Shooter.
now with Happy Gilmore 2 coming out.
Well, isn't the trailer coming out for the Super Bowl?
They've released like bits and pieces.
Yeah. No, I think the trailer's coming out for the Super Bowl. MJF's going to be in there. Maxwell Jacob Friedman. It's going to be a big moment. Big moment for AEW TV. I have no interest in watching Happy Gilmore 2, by the way. I am sick and tired of remakes. Can we do something original? Like, why are we doing so many different remakes? Like it's just sickening to me that we can't come up with anything new.
Welcome to Hollywood.
Like all it is that we come up with one great idea and then we milk the ever living crap out of it. And then half the time it was an all male cast the first time. So now we're going to make an all female cast this time and package it as if it's a new movie. I mean, just make something different. Like instead of being like, all right, we're going to make Ocean's 8 with all females, or we're going to make Ghostbusters all females. How about come up with a great original idea that includes female actresses in which they can blossom and they create characters and something new in which they can be known by it, as opposed to just recycling the same trash over and over again.
Well, I think just like when you only are in 3 seasons of Gilligan's Island because you can only do so much on an island, you run out of ideas.
Was there only 3 seasons of Gilligan's Island?
They had
it's like a telenovela.
Tina Louise, the story is Tina Louise got into an argument with the other cast members, and so it ended the show.
And she had the last laugh because they're all dead, and she's still with us.
Yeah, she's laughing from her bed. Well, she's probably like Grandpa Joe and Willy Wonka and just doesn't move.
I imagine the royalties are pretty good. I mean, I think you probably... At 3 years of Gilligan's Island, I think you're probably doing pretty well.
She can donate to 1890.
What do you think the kickbacks?
You go all these comic book shows. You appear as your character.
Like Stan Lee would always do the shows.
Yeah, but they got paid a lot for that. Like got to
done for free.
Stanley going to Comic-Con like that. I mean, that was a year's work for him.
I can't read that.
He just show up, and then boom, it was done.
It's all yours if you'd like to.
No,
you're the host. It's your show.
I let that go. Yep. A lot of people know about Gilligan's Island. This is amazing. Yep. Probably the biggest question, this is from Mayor Mike. Probably the biggest question is why any of the eligible men didn't hit on Ginger or Marianne.
True.
Oh, I'm sure. Because there's probably scandal. Like Brady Bunch had scandal.
Yeah, they all dated each other. They're all in love with one another.
Greg was hooking up with a stepmom.
And then wasn't there the whole Brady Bunch thing where then they went on tour and there was stuff like that? There was a whole like musical tour that they were doing that was all drama filled, and then they all got into drugs. I mean, it was all none of those.
It's like Jenny on Forrest Gump.
Jenny is the worst, one of the worst movie characters ever.
She died.
Yeah, see? So Forrest got the last laugh there.
Yeah. It wasn't really
And his son was I See Dead People.
John says, talk about not caring about the Super Bowl, Gilligan's Island talk on a Tuesday. Actually, it's a Wednesday.
And it's got people more heated.
I think we have more comments and more interaction about Gilligan's Island. And we've talked about it by the way, our Super Bowl talk was about 8 minutes where we just went a little bit back and forth on the DCs, and that was it. We've spent a good 14 minutes on Gilligan's Island and the other surrounding TV shows.
It's great.
And we've gotten the most interaction we've gotten all week.
That's why we'll save it for Brandon Vogel, who'll join us next on 1620 The Zone. Well, the last time we talked to Brandon Vogel from Counter Reed, a lot of stuff had not happened. Now a lot of stuff has. We welcome in. Good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Hey, we've talked since, but your relationship with Coach Cook, when you have a announcement like he had the other day, where it generates shockwaves and people are like jaw dropping, can't believe it. But then there are more people that cry. Like when he tells players or staff or parents of players, which he did, he reached out to Harper Mary's mom before he told Harper, and she cried. What does that say about the guy that you've gotten to know pretty well? You guys collaborated on a book and you followed him for a long time.
Yeah, I think it's a reflection of, the relationships that he built, which is important, I think, and unique in this context. Because, at a different program, in different sports, we see this where teams may have a long-time head coach and they win at a level that's pretty good for them, and that person becomes beloved and they're there for a long time. What was unique about Cook and at Nebraska is, even though they were competing at the highest level, to have those responses, by and large, there are different examples out there, uh, indicates that it wasn't necessarily cutthroat, that it was still about coaching and development. And for as many times as Coach Cook talked about and brought in outside hitters, and was like, I'm going to turn you into a player who can play all six, play a full rotation, because that's going to help you if you want to play internationally, if you want to play professionally. Like, he didn't have to do that. Those sorts of things are where you can get a little bit specialized, and I don't know that it's a shortcut, but there's a reason other places don't do it. So I think it comes down to that. Like, it wasn't just the winning. Like, we see winning coaches leave, and maybe there aren't tiers. This was an indication, I think, of like at the base level what Nebraska volleyball was.
Danny Busboom Kelly played under John Cook, coached under John Cook, but very much is her own coach. Went to Tennessee, started there, then went over to Louisville, where she created a powerhouse and brought that program to heights that people never really thought that they could get to. When it comes to Coach Busboom Kelly, what are the differences that Husker fans are going to notice, not only just off the court, but also on the court?
Yeah, her Louisville teams at least were, leaned a little more to the offensive side of the equation. Like, I don't think you come in and defense was the bedrock of what John Cook did, and he would talk about it all the time. And Danny, as Coach Cook relayed in his press conference, was a setter who all of a sudden had to play libero. Wasn't that excited about the change, but decided to do it. So it's not like that's not instilled in her, and I think that'll be a part of it. But I do think, maybe not right away, but in seasons to come, you see the Huskers become a little bit more offensive. When you look at teams that make kind of the final 8 or the final 16 in the NCAA tournament, like, that's kind of the dominant strategy, and Nebraska stood out as a little bit of an outlier, because of that. Like, there were always teams that hit better than Nebraska in the NCAA tournament. So maybe that changes a bit. The amazing thing about I think being able to bring Busboom Kelly back is she would have been probably a viable candidate for this job, even if she hadn't been at Nebraska.
Yeah.
But she has. And not only that, she's kind of one of the Nebraska volleyball standouts from lore of, like a Jordan Lyerson, a Lindsey Peterson, who's still involved with the program, of a player who's not just a Nebraska alum, but from Nebraska, and kind of went about it that way.
How'd they keep this quiet?
That's a great question. Coach Cook gave a ton of credit to AD Troy Dannon, and I think that's probably where it belongs. But I think the other thing about it is, the notion of, like, last time we spoke on this show, Coach Cook was still the head coach. I really don't think he decided very far in advance. And he's put out the timeline of what it was. That's kind of essential. And knowing, I think, where Danny was at in respect to this job, should it ever open, was the other kind of key piece of it. And Louisville being able to, I think, know where it wanted to go after that probably helped as well.
We talk about it a lot when you have legendary coaches leave programs throughout sports. Saban leaving Alabama, Belichick leaving the New England Patriots. When Andy Reid eventually leaves the Kansas City Chiefs, we'll have this discussion about you don't really want to be the guy, or in this case, the girl, after the guy, right? But it just seems like that is not the attitude whatsoever when it comes to Danny Busboom Kelly and the reaction to it. And it almost seems like it's the seamless idea that, yes, this was time. This was going to happen. This is a good thing, which is crazy to think about when you're talking about John Cook. He's one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach in volleyball. What do you think factored into all of that to the point we're talking about her coming in and there isn't no worry and there is no stutter and the expectations are still high and everybody's confident about those expectations?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think some of that might come down to a difference of sport and a difference of Nebraska's success there. Basically, since Nebraska started a volleyball program, officially as a varsity sport, it's been successful, and since 1995, it's been winning national titles, which is the danger here, I think, because if this were a football hire, when this was Urban Meyer going to Ryan Day or Bob Stoops to Lincoln Riley, Mark Richt to Kirby Smart, like I would have sat back here and just said, well, the odds are against, like that person won at such a high level. The odds are against the next person being able to do it because it's just really hard. In this instance, I think volleyball's even more like top heavy than most sports that are out there. So that helps Nebraska in this instance. You look at the connections in Danny's time. I think that factors in a way that probably gets too much weight when we look at it elsewhere. At least in my opinion, particularly with football hires. But here I do think it matters. And being a known name just coming over from Louisville of like, oh yeah, I was one of the best players in the country. I thought I might go to Louisville, but now I might all of a sudden have a chance to go to Nebraska,
Sure.
which, is maybe a half step ahead based on recent results over the past 5-6 seasons. That probably contributes a bit as well.
Brandon Vogel from Counter Read joining us. All right, you've written, I think, 65,000 words on special teams over the last couple of years. Mike Eckler will make the biggest impact when and where on special teams in 2025?
Good question. It might be, and it's not something that shows up easily, but it might be in kind of the coverage units, which is one of those things where a lot of that in terms of kickoff essentially is just kind of gone. Like if teams don't want to return it, they don't have to. But the Eckler hire is really intriguing. Outside of him having been here before and being a Nebraska native, it's so much an effort and execution part of the game. And he is a guy who exudes that. I think his time at Tennessee, the numbers that they had backed that up. So I think it's that piece of it. And when you look at special teams, like it's pretty easy. Like, did you make the field goal or not? Still got to get better at that piece of it. But it's an interesting thing when you considered potential special teams coordinator, hires that Nebraska could make. It's not like all of those guys are ex-punters and ex-kickers. In fact, most of them aren't. It's not a specialized area. It's more about the comprehensive piece of it, where you've got 4 different teams really that you've got to kind of coordinate and control. And that largely, I think, comes down to energy and the execution. And we know Eckler's going to bring the energy piece of it. And him coming off, a stint at Tennessee where they made gains in that regard. I think it is really encouraging.
So the first kind of cycle of this offseason, this first portal cycle and coaching hire carousel, whatever the heck you want to call it, is done. This team, for the most part, has done a really, really good job at filling the obvious holes that they had on the roster through the portal and then hiring good coaches. Still, though, what are things that you are looking at that this team needs to improve on or this team still needs to fix or figure out before we get to that first. Well, I was going to say first Saturday, but until we get to that Thursday when they take on Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, the spring will be, I think, largely about kind of all of the coaching changes and the implementation of that. After rules update on Saturday, like we're all going to be watching the O line because that group's going to be stretched a little bit thin in the spring, and I think some of the new additions via the transfer portal will be key parts of the spring. But it's going to be interesting, and with the prospect of no spring game, well, the likelihood of no spring game, it's going to be a different spring, I think, for Nebraska, and probably different for all teams across the country. But it's just what are going to be the talking points, and it probably focuses on those. You need some young O linemen. You need to find out about how the coaching changes are being implemented, and you'll want to hear about the new guys, and that'll extend to the early enrollees too. So, big picture, I kind of look at Nebraska's season ahead, and like the big bet that they're making with the coaching changes they've made is like they're going to generate more offense to be able to, withstand a defense that maybe takes a half step back or stays the same. So I think that'll kind of be the lead items, and of course, everyone will forever be interested in Dylan Raiola's progress.
All right, what do you? I know you'll write about special teams because you always do. What else do you have coming up at counterread.com with you and Aaron?
Yeah, so for tomorrow, I'm working on 12 of the quiet coaching cycle at the head, top position, but 12 Big Ten teams switched at least one coordinator. So talking about Nebraska's coaching changes, trying to put some of those in order and also pull all that information together because nobody seems to do that. So, and it's interesting, UCLA swiping an OC from Indiana, and then Ohio State losing both just recently, and Washington is swapping out both coordinators. So I think it really kind of colors the season ahead. So putting some rigor to that, which is an interesting topic to me because I think with so much up in the air with teams closer, I think broadly in the conference, these decisions are going to change somebody's season. It's just a matter of for the better or for the worse. So I'll try and do my best projecting those.
Absolutely, Brandon. As always, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Thank you, Brandon.
That's Brandon Vogel. Good stuff at counterread.com. Speaking of changing coordinators, Joe Cullen is being mentioned for the Ohio State DC job. You think that'll change Terry Braden? Because he's the assistant D-line coach with the Chiefs. Cullen is the main defensive line coach.
Ooh, that's a great question, Gary.
He's being mentioned for the DC job in Columbus.
So what more could Cullen offer him, like an assistant head coaching job or something?
No, if Cullen leaves, then that job is open.
Braden becomes the head defensive line coach. Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. That could be a factor. We'll see. I mean, the contract's already signed.
All right. We'll get out of here, and we'll do the same thing we did yesterday with a chance for you to win $100. Congratulations yesterday to Pat Krause, who won. Guess the play.
Yeah.
All right. We'll play a play here, and you have to, in detail, via email to jimmy@1620thezone.com, explain how this play ends. Again, it could be just an incomplete pass.
Yeah. Could be a 3-yard rush up the middle from Rex Burkhead.
Could be one of the greatest plays in the history of the Super Bowl.
Or maybe football in period.
Something that had us all jumping up and down and all of a sudden going, WTF happened.
This play?
Yes, this play.
Oh.
Yeah.
We have celebration in one. I'll give you the rest of it after this play. 4th down and 6. And Wright fumbles. Picked up by Leon Lett. Can he go all the way? It's a 60-yard run. He's being chased.
It was a 60-yard run. But what happened?
Oh, because you got to. Oh, I'm not going to give it away.
I know. You almost couldn't stop yourself there for a second.
You know what? I like this because I'm getting to hear Dick Enberg again.
That's why I played it.
Pat
I knew
Summerall, John Madden.
Yeah.
A lot of throwbacks on these plays.
Now we're to the Super Bowl where we get Kevin Burkhardt and Tom Brady.
Don't call. Email Jimmy@1620thezone.com because the phone's ringing. Email me. First
Tommy
one to email.
broadcasting, baby.
Yeah. Will he have a Raiders lapel on?
Baby.
Yeah.
He'll have a Raiders lapel, a Buccaneers lapel, a New England lapel.
And he'll be squirming when Kansas City wins.
Jiu-jitsu purple belt.
So odd that they had to make an announcement that they've adjusted some things so he can meet with the teams.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
You know that Mahomes,
just run the Raiders.
Mahomes is going to win the 3rd Super Bowl in a row, and Brady's going to be like, well, it doesn't make him the greatest of all time.
That probably will happen. Enjoy the ball today. We'll talk Creighton and Nebraska coming up tomorrow, 7:30 and 9:30.
We have a winner already.
We do?
Yep.
Hey-o.
Nice.
So
that damn Leon Lett.
Yeah.
That was a good Thanksgiving game. How about them Dolphins? It's Gary and Matt. For Jimmy, for Matt, I'm Gary. Crossover's coming up next.